this a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it. And this a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it. And this a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
Hello everyone and welcome to day 2 of the GPVWC Race of Champions 2023. This is the big one, the big day where we're going to see a champion crowned. My name's Caitlin Penny. Your broadcast director today is Vincent Gutt, as it was yesterday, although unfortunately we don't have Ed Hunter, so that graphic will have to be updated over the course of the day, but that is absolutely fine, and I am more than willing to take on the 16 races that you have coming up for you today for the rest of the Race of Champions bracket. First of all, of course, we have the round of 16, where we will be using the Radical SR3, I should say, the SR3 RSX, which is a beautiful car that I have had the pleasure of seeing race several times in real life, and it sounds amazing and it goes amazingly. It has the perfect balance of mechanical and aerodynamic grip, in my opinion, and I'm imagining that it's going to be quite a delight for the drivers to race. I've heard that not all of them like this style of racing, or this type of car anyway, but I'm sure they're going to give it their best shot, because if they get through this, then they will progress on to the quarterfinals, which will utilize the extremely powerful Renault RS01, another car that I've had the delight of seeing race in real life. And then of course the semi-finals will utilize a 2018 style stock car, so that's going to be absolutely brilliant with the cars sliding around. We already saw them drifting out GT4 cars, so imagine what they're going to be like in stock cars later on. And then at the end of that, we will have the grand final, which will utilize all of the cars that we've already seen, including potentially another one as well. So wait for that, and make your predictions now as to who is going to be in that grand final. Basically everyone that I've spoken to so far has given me exactly the same prediction coming into today. Jake Dennehan and Alex Lahoe. Those are the two to really look out for from both brackets, and those were the two fastest drivers yesterday in the Alpine A100 GT4 Cup car. But of course today, with brand new cars, and you know, it's a new day with new opposition, who knows what could happen. We could see some real shocks today. The first race is just about to get underway as soon as the drivers are ready. It's going to be Jake Dennehan, one of the main favourites for this competition, and the reigning champion of the GPWC Race of Champions. And of course, that is to ignore the fact that he is also the reigning Super League champion, having wrapped that up earlier this year. And Dennehan will be going up against Luke Maguire, another Super League driver who has won races this year. He actually took a win away from Dennehan at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix when Jake was given a penalty for, I can't remember exactly what it was for right now, possibly a pit infringement. Yeah, pit exit infringement. Thanks, Vince. And so Luke Maguire ended up winning that race, but can he win this? He's going to have a very tough challenge up against Jake Dennehan. Now, the race was supposed to get underway a couple of minutes ago, although we heard that they were having a little bit of an issue with the practice server. It had to be restarted for some reason, so it should be getting underway any second now. And we will see Dennehan and Maguire going head to head, just as they did in the Super League Championship. These two have history as well. They've raced together in FS1. They've had many a battle in Super League. It wasn't just that one victory. They were both on the podium in Australia this year. And Luke, of course, got another podium at the Singapore Grand Prix when Jake had an accident with Tom Stevens and Jan Granqvist, his other two main championship contenders. And Jake ended up winning the championship by 22 points in the end, with 6 wins to himself. They have both raced already, of course. Everyone who's in the competition now had a race yesterday, some more so than others, with 2 drivers getting a free pass due to others pulling out of the competition unannounced. Jake Dennehan beat Noah Tuamela. He beat him with both races going the... No, sorry, actually, Noah Tuamela actually won one of the races yesterday due to a poor start from Jake Dennehan. And then, of course, as for Luke Maguire, he beat Joe Gillette 3-0, the only driver to beat another driver 3-0 due to the fact they ran the decider race even though it had already been wrapped up in the way of Luke Maguire, and then Joe Gillette became very famous for toppling the car over onto its side, which was one of the highlights of the competition so far. So, Jake Dennehan will be on the left-hand side of the grid, Luke Maguire will be on the right, and for the first time in the Radical SR3 tournament, we get underway, and Dennehan had a poor start, so Luke Maguire gets away quicker. And now you see the course once again. If you haven't seen it yesterday, then this will be the first time that you've had a view of this beautiful circuit. It's very tight and twisty, there's plenty of hairpins in it. That corner was an accident black spot yesterday with cars getting sideways, sliding out, and touching the wall through this tunnel here. He might clip the wall a little on the exit, but I think he's just about got away with it there. Then you head into the second half of the lap, through a hairpin, past some sausage curbs. Tom Stevens did a rather impressive wheelie over that section yesterday. And then, of course, some more hairpins. And this next one, this double apex right-hander, will bring Luke to the end of his first lap. And Jake's taken the lead. So Jake takes Luke Maguire, and the gap going on to this second lap is 0.2 of a second. So it's really not that much whatsoever. But Jake Dennehan has done a wonderful job to bring back the disadvantage he had from his poor start. And now Luke has it all to do. This is Jake Dennehan here. You can see that characteristic four-wheel drift, which we saw so many of the fastest drivers doing yesterday. It really did appear that four-wheel drifting was the way to go, because all of the quickest drivers did it. And Jake Dennehan was the second quickest in the timings yesterday. He is also potentially one of the quickest in the Radical SR3, because out of the final corner he comes, and Jake Dennehan wraps up the first race of the day by 1.7 seconds. So despite a poor start, Jake has brought it back, and the time to beat is a 48.691. I'm actually going to write that down here because I want to be on top of the times that people are setting. So Dennehan sets a 48.691, which is, of course, by default, the fastest time that we've seen so far. Luke Maguire was a 50.1, so like I said, about 1.5 seconds off. But it is, of course, a best of 3, so they will be going at it again from the opposite side of the grid, just to make sure that there is no advantage or disadvantage from starting on either side of the grid. And now he's just got to do it all again from the right-hand side. So the importance here will be getting a good start. His starts have been a little ropey over the course of this competition. That's how Noah Tuamela was able to win a race against Jake Dennehan yesterday, when he took that victory in the first round. But Jake, if he can get it off the line, he can easily win this race, because you've seen that once he gets away, he is faultless. So now we have to wait for the red lights to go out. And off they go once again, and that's a much better start as Jake Dennehan pulls away slightly into the lead. Gets ahead, heading up to the bridge. So we're watching the Radical SR3 RSX of Jake Dennehan. A little correction midway through the corner, but that should be okay. This car is light as a feather, pretty much, metaphorically speaking, and has a lot of downforce from that front splitter and the rear wing. It's on slick tyres, which give it plenty of mechanical grip as well, and that's what you want around these tight and twisty corners. They don't really go fast enough for the aerodynamics to mean much in this series, and so he's got to keep those rear wheels rotating. He'll want a little bit of oversteer for these hairpins. It's much easier to control than if you had a little bit of understeer. and that's why you see him spinning up the rear wheels as he's doing so. His first lap was very good stuff indeed. 1.8 seconds is the gap now to Luke Maguire, and that's about the gap that he had at the end of the first race. Look at Maguire getting sideways, but I tell you what, he is utilising that four-wheel drift technique, but he's touched the wall. Luke Maguire touches the wall on the entrance to the corner, and that caused him to go very wide indeed. He lost a lot of speed through there, and he's going to have to do one more lap, knowing, I think, that Jake Dennehan has got this, providing he doesn't make a mistake. Luke Maguire has fought valiantly. Yesterday, he beat Joe Gillette with 3 wins to 0, but unfortunately, he's had the bad luck of having to go up against Jake Dennehan in this first round of the day, first matchup of the day, and it's a massive win. Let's wait to see the gap. Well, oh, there we go. 3.9 seconds is the gap, and Jake sets another personal best. It's a 48.547, which is, once again, the fastest time of the day. So I will write that down, 48.547 to Luke Maguire's 50.711. So that is the difference, that is the gap, and those are the first 2 times as Jake Dennehan progresses to the quarterfinals. So now that that's out of the way, we can move on to the next of our our round of 16 finals. We have Silver Yoffert up against Alessandro Maggio. Silver Yoffert, who was one of the invitational entries to this. Alessandro Maggio, also an invitational entry. They are seeded 25th and 24th, respectively, and so should be very evenly matched, if that is anything to go by. But yesterday, they both beat much tougher, theoretically tougher opponents. Silver Yoffert managed to beat Sandeep Singh. Sandeep, of course, a super light contender. And Alessandro Maggio ended up beating our FS1 champion, Jack Mayer. Of course, Jack was racing on a controller rather than the wheel that he is accustomed to, but even so, Alessandro Maggio was able to bring it home ahead and progress through to this round. Both Maggio and Yoffert have been racing in the FS1 championship at various. Sorry, my apologies. Silver Yoffert has been racing in SL2 this year. Best result of 11th place in that, and also did 4 Super League outings with a best result of 16th. Maggio has been. Oh, as I get all of my controls wrong. Maggio has been up and coming. He was very impressive in the Super League Young Drivers test the other day. Finished, I think, top of the times, or at least in the top 2 of the times in that Young Drivers test, and then went very well in the silly races we did at the end of that as well. They both raced in Super Lights this year. Alessandro Maggio has a best result of 4th position in that championship. Maggio also raced in FS1, where he has a best result of 11th position, and he won one of the races in FS2, the second race at the Azerbaijan circuit, and several academy wins just to top it all off by the look of it. So it will be, and this is a different semi-final. So a completely different semi-final is taking to the field now. This is not the one that I had scheduled. My apologies. I tell you what. No, I tell you what the problem was. It's because I was looking at the bracket and not the round of 16. That is my fault entirely. I thought it was going to work the same way as yesterday. Okay, so my apologies. First blunder of the day. Allow me to introduce you to who is actually racing here. We have Stein Handgraf, who progressed to the round of 16 as a result of Mark Schluter unfortunately not showing up, so Stein was given an automatic bite and only had to do one race of 2 laps out on the circuit. And Alex Lahoo, who was actually the fastest driver yesterday, so look out for Alex because he is extremely fast here, and a lot of drivers are expecting him to be in the grand final when all is said and done. He beat Massimiliano Roboli yesterday, who is a very strong driver in his own right, and so Alex should be the one to beat quite easily here. Out of the final turn for this lap he goes, and the gap is 8/10 of a second. So Lahu is leading this particular race, despite the fact I noticed he took a slightly bizarre line into the first corner of his lap. Didn't quite get the line right. Was a little sideways, but then managed to cover it up. Hello to everyone in the YouTube chat. Yes, Matthias Pischan saying it's not Joffert versus Maggio right now, it's Lahu versus Handgraf. My apologies for that. It's because when I look at the tournament tree, Joffert and Maggio come before Handgraf and Lahu. They were supposed to be match 18, and this is supposed to be match 23, but looking at the schedule page, it's completely different, so that completely threw me off there. Anyway, we're coming out of the final corner for this particular race, and Alex Lahu makes it first blood, wins that race by 1.5 seconds. The lap time not quite as quick as what we saw from Denahan. It's a 49.090 from Lahu, which puts him second on the times so far. But even so, that doesn't matter whatsoever. It is all down to the opponent that you're actually facing at the time, and that's what ends up giving you the position. So through goes Alex Lahu, or at least one win up as we head to the second round of action. Handgraf, it should be noticed, was actually quicker than Luke Maguire went on his best run, unless I'm very much mistaken. It was a 49.817 for Stein Handgraf, which is not bad at all. Again, at this point in the competition, you have to get a little lucky with the opponents that you're actually facing, as well as just how the races themselves go, because Alex Lahu is one of the drivers you would absolutely not want to face so early on in the competition. Onto the grid they go again. This time, Lahu will start from the left, Handgraf will go from the right. Looks like Lahu's got himself a fan in the YouTube chat with Matthias Pischan saying Lahu is the GOAT, and he could well prove himself to be so today if he's able to progress through the competition. Here come the lights, and we're set to go again for the second time in this particular bracket, and Handgraf gets a better start that time. So away gets Stein Handgraf into the lead as they head up and over the hill. You see the car sparking away as they go through the dip and the banking, just as the Alpine A100 did yesterday. This car actually sparking even more, sparking even around the hairpins on the circuit. Such a low slung car that the splitter is dragging along the ground. But they don't have to worry about that. It's such a short race, you really don't have to worry much about any potential damage or anything like that. And onto the second half of the first lap they go. I know they cross the start-finish line, but technically you have to do one course on each circuit for it to count as a full lap, which is a little confusing, but it does provide for about the right kind of lap length that we're looking for. And at the end of the first lap, Lahu's lead is about a second, just under a second there, as Handgraf didn't quite get that final corner hooked up as much as he would have liked. So Lahu, despite getting a slightly worse start, was significantly quicker on the first time of asking, and now he's just got to do that all over again, exactly the same as he did the first time around. And he should go through to the round of 16, where he will face whoever wins what's written down on my tournament tree as match 24, but we'll cover that one later on when it happens. So it would be epic if Lahu was going up against Denahan next. That would be for sure, but I think people are expecting them to face each other in the final anyway, so we'll have to wait to see if those predictions do end up coming true. Alex Lahu progresses to the round of 16 now, 2.2 seconds ahead of Stein Handgraf, and he set a 48.8, so still not quite the same pace that Denahan had, but that doesn't matter whatsoever, because he has now progressed to the round of 16, and that's all that he needed to do. So Denahan and Lahu become the first two drivers to progress, just as we expected them to be. So congratulations to our first two drivers to go through to the round of 16. The next match, and I am going to look to the schedule this time rather than the bracket. The next match will be Owen McGorgy versus David Wasserman. Owen McGorgy, the 5th seed, although 3rd and 4th seed both pulled out of this tournament, so theoretically he is the 3rd most likely to win. And Owen has already proven his worth by beating Mateusz Piszczan yesterday, 2 wins to 0. Owen, of course, the Super Lights champion this year, so dominantly so that he didn't even bother to turn up to the last 3 races, and then went to Super League and has made quite an impression in that championship as well, scoring 2 podiums this year despite only doing 7 races. Meanwhile, David Wasserman has also progressed, as a result of beating Frank Hamming at the round of 32. It was relatively close, with Wasserman beating Hamming 2 wins to 1, so it did come down to that 3rd victory. And I seem to remember that one was a battle that tended to come down to tenths of a second throughout the course of the race. So I think that if Wasserman does well here, Hamming will feel slightly aggrieved that he didn't go through, because being on a very similar pace to David Wasserman, I'm sure that he will feel he could very easily still be in the competition. But that doesn't matter. It's all down to those tenths of a second. That's what racing is quite a lot of the time. And so it will be David Wasserman going up against Owen McGorky here, the 3rd highest seeded driver still in the competition. So we just have to wait a couple of minutes for these 2 drivers to be ready. You see them there on the right hand side of your screen, and you can see that we are a few minutes ahead of schedule, but that is okay. Welcome into Yamadox, saying Lahu Goat indeed. And yeah, in terms of that last fight, Alex Lahu proved himself very competitive indeed. You see the first two quarter finalists on the bracket there, in this wonderful graphic made by Vincent Gutt, who is also providing you with the stream and the broadcast that you're seeing. Very good stuff. I'm a big fan of interactive graphics that update themselves as the tournament goes along, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing some very interesting names popping up on this slate as the session goes on. Well, welcome in as well to Noah and to Dommy Space, the other 2 people who have popped into the YouTube chat so far. We have a good few people watching today, just as we did yesterday, and I'm sure that you're all enjoying this so far. I really hope you all are anyway. This is a fantastic tournament of the likes that you won't get pretty much anywhere else in sim racing, and it's a one-off tournament as far as GPWC is concerned. We have done it the last few years, although this year's one definitely has a big event feel to it. But yes, it is something that we only do once a year, and ever since the disappearance of the other leagues within GPWC, aside from our career ladder, this has been the only non-career ladder event, which makes it a truly special official event on the GPWC calendar. So onto the grid then come the Radical SR3 RSXs, one of the drivers clearly wanting to get going sooner rather than later. David Wasserman will be on the left hand side in that green and white car that you see there, and Owen McGorky will be on the right hand side in the bluey yellow one. 2 quite tropical looking cars if you ask me, but very fast looking cars nonetheless. I always like the rear lights on these Radicals, how angular they end up looking. Away we go then. Owen McGorky gets away slightly faster than David Wasserman. He will go into turn 1 ahead, sparking those splitters, and slightly wide, but that might just be a preference of line. Now watch as he kicks out the tail, possibly a bit much there. He had to correct it midway through the corner. McGorky yesterday was one of the most impressive, one of the most emphatic in terms of his drifting technique, and it really did look as if he was driving a Formula Drift at times. But here he goes onto this second part of the lap, and he seems to be a bit more measured now. It's funny, Jake Denahan was telling me that he really didn't fancy driving the Radical, but of course he has won his bracket in this car already. So sometimes drivers think they suit a particular car, but it doesn't really matter because the timing sheets will say otherwise, and of course vice versa. McGorgy finishes that first time around 0.6 of a second before David Wasserman. So it's Wasserman with the work to do here as he attempts a drifting technique of his own. He's kind of leveled out a little bit partway through the corner, but we saw McGorgy doing that once on the opening lap as well through this next hairpin here. It's clearly much harder than it looks. And, oh, that was nice there. I like the technique through that right-hander. Through the tunnel we go now, the car screaming its way through as he goes up onto the curb and out to the final corner. It's going to be close. Look at that. David Wasserman brought back a lot of time, but it's just about Owen McGorgy who wins that first race by 1/10 of a second. It's a 49.294 from Owen McGorgy, which is the third fastest driver's time that we've seen so far. And David Wasserman's second lap actually was faster than that. In fact, David Wasserman was only just off Lahoo on that last flying lap through there. So he did actually gain on Owen McGorgy the second time around, but unfortunately for him, it wasn't quite enough to bring that tie back. He will get another opportunity though. They will go again. And both of these drivers have been extremely fast in these cars so far, but the most important thing is that they're so tight on times. This could be a real matchup here, actually. So let's watch as they go again. So this time, it will be Owen McGorgy on the left-hand side of the grid, and David Wasserman on the right-hand side of the grid. Will that make any difference at all? Well, theoretically it shouldn't, but you never know. And that's why we do these best of threes. The final later on, by the way, will be a best of 5, just to make the most of it. And so, I'm very much looking forward to that. Where has Owen gone? Come on. I'd be worried about the game giving me an automatic jump start penalty, but I'm not sure that is something that takes place in this. Here we go then. The lights getting ready to eliminate. And when they go out, we'll be underway once again. And off we go. This time, McGorgy slightly faster start once again. That did make the difference last time around. We didn't think it was going to, but it really did. Pischan says, nice from Wasserman. Yes, indeed. And also predicts that the Platt versus Martin bracket will be a close one. Yeah, that's one that honestly, I can't really pick a winner from them. I think they're both extremely strong drivers. Here is David Wasserman then. He's really got his technique down, hasn't he? That was a lovely line through there. Look at that drifting! This is great stuff from David Wasserman here, who has come alive in this radical. He goes into the left-hander now, kicking the tail out slightly. Maybe a little over-rotation. And into the second lap. Oh, it's close again. Look at that. McGorgy's lead is just 0.2 of a second. Now remember, Wasserman was slightly faster on the second lap last time around. So watch Owen McGorgy here. He's got to be perfect. He knows that he's met his match in David Wasserman. But will it be too much for him? Around the double right-hander he goes. This will be a wonderful opportunity to go to our first best of 3 match of the day. The first decider round. But only if Wasserman's second lap is over 0.2 of a second faster than Owen McGorgy's. Here we go into the tunnel once again. McGorgy still utilising that all-wheel drift strategy. Out of the corner. Who's it going to be? It's David Wasserman! Fantastic stuff there. A brilliant race between the two, and once again they're close, separated by just 0.352. It wasn't quite as fast as their first race, only a 49.1 second lap there from David Wasserman, but even so, that was fast enough to give him the victory and bring it to a third race out of 3. And this is our first decider of the day. Who would have predicted this? With all due respect to David Wasserman, of course, Owen McGorgy in the career ladder this year was significantly more competitive. Wasserman did race in Superlights in the Abu Dhabi round this year, where he finished in 5th position, whereas Owen McGorgy, of course, won the championship with 8 wins out of the 13 races that he did. Wasserman also made some outings. He made 6 outings in the Super League Championship with a best result of 13th place, again at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix round. But Magorki, even in that, had some better results. His best result was a 2nd place finish at Abu Dhabi. So if you look at those results and if you look at their performances on paper, then Magorki should win this one. But you have to say, races aren't won on paper, and David Wasserman is proving that with a spirited drive in the Radical SR3. So I'm looking at the YouTube chat now. I'm seeing disbelief from some of these drivers. Mateus Pischan saying, "What is David cooking?" Well, he's cooking on Magorki in that last race. And go, go, go! Magorki once again, the fastest starter, heading up the bridge. But he was in the first 2 races as well, so you know that that isn't everything. We're going to see it again now. This is the 3rd race out of 3. It all comes down to this, and there are no 4th chances. If a driver makes a mistake here and gets a drift wrong and ends up facing the wrong way, that's on them, I'm afraid. The other driver progresses. So Magorki, through the final turn of this particular half lap, goes on to the 2nd half lap, if that makes sense. The 2nd quarter of 4. Technically, this lap from the right-hand lane is slightly, or I guess from the left-hand lane, is slightly shorter than the lap from the right-hand lane. Magorki out of the final corner, across the line, onto that 2nd lap. He leads by 7 tenths, so Wasserman now has the disadvantage. But remember, the 2nd lap has been where he's been at his most competitive. Possibly a little overcorrection there through the hairpins. Can he still do it? Here he goes again. He's still got that 4th quarter to go. Very tight up against the wall, using all of the track. Sparks flying through the bridge. A little twitch, but I think that was a slightly better line than Magorki, but not quite for the hairpin though. He got it a little out of sorts on the entrance. Through the tunnel now, and this is going to decide it. When they emerge from the tunnel, we'll see how close they are, side by side, and it's Owen Magorki who progresses in the round of 16 by 7 tenths of a second. Again, an even slower race than that 2nd one, so they've been getting gradually slower for some reason. But even so, that has secured Owen Magorki's place in the round of 16. But a round of applause to David Wasserman, who fought very, very well indeed, and is still the 3rd fastest driver that we've seen so far today. So congratulations to David Wasserman for that, but unfortunately he will be out of the tournament. So there you see the bracket. Magorki is not yet on that, but he will be any second now. And we progress onto our next fight, which will be Alessandro Maggio versus Silver Yoffert. And I actually do mean that like this time. I introduced them earlier, so if you do remember what I was saying, Maggio and Yoffert are 24th and 25th seeded. They're the 2 lowest seeded drivers remaining in the competition at this point in time, with the exception of Davide Zanini, who will come up shortly. But Maggio and Yoffert are sure to go hard in this one. Silver Yoffert beat Sandeep Singh in the round of 32, a much higher ranked driver. And Alessandro Maggio beats Jack Nair, who was driving on that uncharacteristic controller. Yoffert has driven in 4 Super League races with a best start of 16th place this year. He's also driven in several SL2 races with a best result of 11th place, as I get the hiccups. Maggio, of course, 6 wins in the Academy Series, 1 win in Formula Sprint 2, that came at Azerbaijan. He's also raced in, he's been a real jack of all trades actually, because he's also raced in FS1, where he finished, he had an 11th place finish. He's raced in SL2, where he had a 4th place finish, and he's raced in Super League, at least in the Young Drivers Test. So you could say he's done all 5 of the career ladder levels this year, and now he's doing the Race of Champions. That's what we like to see. Alessandro Maggio really getting stuck in GPVWC, throwing his hat in wherever he can, seeing what sticks. And he's been extremely impressive this year. I'm sure that we'll be seeing more of him in the future. Typhoon is cheering on Alessandro Maggio. Chat saying Maggio versus Denahan make it happen. That would be a firm final if it was to happen. And let's go Maggio. Well, it wouldn't be a final actually because they would face each other in the quarterfinals if that is to happen. And it's very possible, of course. Denahan, we know, is progressing. So whoever wins out of Joffe and Maggio will go forward to face him in the Renault RS01. Yamadok says impressive drive by Wasserman in that last round. Pischan says very good from Wasserman. Yes, indeed. David has made his mark on the competition despite no longer being involved in it. And the graphics updated. Very good. So Omagorgi showing himself as the winner of that particular round. He will face whoever wins out of Davide Zanini and Loic Mounier, which is a scrap that we will see in due time. So we've seen 3 out of 8 of the quarter final, the round of 16 rounds, sorry. And here we go. We now get ready for the next of those. Now, who are we looking at here? The car starting on the right-hand side of the grid with the blue airbox will be Silver Joffe. And then the car on the left-hand side of the grid with the white airbox and the red front is Alessandro Maggio. And here come the lights, and when they go out, we will be underway once again. I'm sure you all know how this works. Oh, it's a much better start from Alessandro Maggio. Joffe appeared to bog down there partway through the straight. He got a good initial launch, but just seemed to bog down a little bit. And Maggio ended up being a few tenths up. A little touch of the wall there from Silver Joffe as well. They don't really have to suffer or have to worry about suffering any damage. But they do have to worry, of course, about damaging the time. Their lap time, that is. Joffe starts another lap of this race now. Going through the tunnel, that's how the tracks cross over each other. So, seamlessly, you end up on the other side of the grid, the side that you started on. It's a very clever way of racing, and you really only get that in the Race of Champions. And onto the second lap they go, with Maggio leading by 1.8 seconds. So Maggio has been getting away. You see him flying over the curbs. Look at that, wheels up in the air, rally styling it around. You could say that his driving style is rather radical in this one. Pun very much intended. And it seems to be working for him because he's still ahead now as he heads up to the bridge. Goodness, he was weaving around even on the bridge as he was approaching that braking zone. So very wild stuff, but as I said, he's making it work. Yesterday we called him Magic Maggio after he beat Jack Mayer, whose own driving style was rather leery, with all due respect to Jack. He wasn't at his best driving on a controller, of course. But today, Alessandro Maggio will put his name in the mix by winning the first race against Silver Joffe. He wins by 2.5 seconds, so that's actually quite comprehensive. And Silver is going to have to pull something out of the bag if he's to bring it back in that second race. The second lap time there, 49.477 for Alessandro Maggio, and Silver Joffe 50.1. So we have to wait to see them go at it again before we can officially declare Alessandro Maggio as having progressed to the second round. And who knows, maybe if Silver Joffe gets a better start, then he can get into a bit more of a groove and get properly involved in the scrap. But Maggio does seem very impressive in this one. You see the warm-up counting down. You don't have to wait 10 minutes, don't you worry. We are cutting straight to the race session, with Silver Joffe this time starting from the left, and Alessandro Maggio this time starting from the right. There you go. Same cars as before. Good to see them driving cars with significantly different colours as well. We had some races yesterday. Can't remember who it was, but there was one race where the two drivers had exactly the same livery, which was a little annoying, but luckily the drivers seem to have avoided that today. I see Silver is driving the number 69, that is nice stuff. And the red lights go off, so away we go again, and it's a slightly better start this time for Silver Yoffert, although Maggio was a little quicker off the line. I mean, it was better than his last start from Silver Yoffert, but he gets right over the sausage curbs on the side and bounces his way wide. And that is not the line you want to be taking through there. So let's see if he can do it again, or do it a bit better this time on his second time around. He doesn't have to worry too much about the sausage curves this time. The track that starts on the left is a bit more, or the track that starts on the right, sorry, is a bit more about the sheer rock face and the tunnel that he's about to find himself in. Here we go, through the tunnel, and we're about to complete the first lap of the race. We always hit the wall again. Silver Yoffert bounces off the barriers, and Maggio this time leads by 1 second, so that's the gap going on to the second lap. Now we look to Alessandro Maggio's Radical SR3. Reminds me of the old Toyota Formula 1 livery with the slightly asymmetrical front and the red, white and black colours. But anyway, through the tunnel he goes. He's got another half lap to do. Now, don't be disheartened by the massive gap that Alessandro Maggio has as he crosses the line there. As I said, one lap, or one half lap, is actually significantly faster than the other by about 4 or 5 seconds. And so you really can't judge where they are at that point in the lap. You can judge them now though, because Alessandro Maggio, oh, and a big spin for Yoffert in the background. And that means that Alessandro Maggio does progress to the round of 16. Yoffert decides to finish the race sideways, backwards, whatever works. 7.5 seconds down. So Alessandro Maggio has comprehensively sealed his place in the round of 16, and he will end up fighting Jake Dennehan in the Renault RS01, which of course will be the quarter-finals. So congratulations to Alessandro Maggio. Also, well done, Silver Yoffert. You put up a very good fight, of course, beating Sandeep Singh yesterday evening. And he will go through. Maggio will go through to face Jake Dennehan in a few minutes' time, about 50 minutes' time, judging by that bracket there. So the next race will be Loic Mounier versus Davide Zanini. And this will really be about Davide Zanini proving that he's got what it takes, because yesterday he was given an automatic bye, having beaten Adam Maguire by virtue of Maguire not even showing up to this race. Maguire was one of the favourites, being 4th seeded coming into this. Brankvist pulled out, then that of course made him the 3rd highest seeded driver actually in the competition. But for some reason, he didn't end up racing yesterday, and that means that Davide Zanini ended up going through. Although, in his defence, when we saw him running out on the track for the 2 laps that we actually saw him doing, he did seem to be rather smooth, and I actually think that he could put on a good show for us today. But of course, he will have to beat the rather impressive Loic Mounier, who beat Luke Mitchell yesterday, 2 wins to 0, and that of course puts Loic Mounier in the favourite seat coming into this one, I presume. But I'm sure Davide Zanini will be wanting to either prove me wrong or give it a good shot nonetheless. And of course, whoever wins this battle will have to go up against Owen McGorgy, who only just scraped past David Wasserman in that last race. Both were very fast. And so, Zanini and Mounier will actually stand quite a good chance in this competition going forwards, if they can show the same kind of pace. Here we go then. We're about to show you the cars preparing for the start of this next match. The next matchup. So it looks as if Davide Zanini will be starting from the left-hand side of the grid in that lovely green car that I described as tropical looking earlier on. Looks like I don't even know what it looks like, but it looks pretty darn fast. And Loic Mounier, of course, will go from the right-hand side And here we go again. Go, go, go. Very even start. Look at that. Saw the lines being laid down as the drivers went across the start-finish line. And Davide Zanini's first sector time didn't even come in for some weird reason. Absolutely no idea why that was. You can see the timing sheet seems to think he's losing handfuls of time, but I can assure you that he did cross the start-finish line. He is actually in this race. Zanini onto his second half a lap. Ooh, was that lag there? Something... Yeah, something didn't look right. Did he hit the wall? It kind of looked laggy, but... Okay, so Zanini, I think, made a mistake there. Seems to have lost a deal of time. And a rather bizarre one, because it didn't look to be obeying the laws of physics. But anyway, out of the final corner he comes. And where is Davide Zanini? Sorry, where's Loic Meunier? Well, Meunier's already gone through. 2 seconds ahead, 2.5 seconds. So that was indeed a mistake from Davide Zanini. Saw as he went over the bridge. And that means that Loic Meunier is in a vast lead at this point in time. Sparks flying as he goes out towards the wall. There's Davide Zanini. Just up ahead, although behind on time. Round the curbs he goes, kicking the tail out. Like I said, that's not necessarily a mistake. Sometimes drifting it round can actually be the best way of doing it. Oh, but that was a bit too much. He gets on grass on the side. That's going to cost him a bit of time. Is he still ahead? Yes, he is. And Loic Meunier wins the first race. So he will go into the second race slightly ahead. 2.7 seconds is the gap in the end. So Loic goes through 1-0. But this time, they will go again. It wasn't the cleanest of races from either driver there. We saw them both make mistakes. And we saw the timing screen go a little bit wild throughout the whole thing. For some weird reason. But this time, Loic Meunier will start from the left. Davide Zanini from the right, unless I'm very much mistaken. And they will have to do it all over again. I've noticed that the car is left-hand drive. I'm not sure if that makes any difference. I know that the Radical SR3 makes a difference in weight distribution. That's true. Of course, the Radical SR3 can come in either right-hand drive or left-hand drive mode. And yes, it does make a difference in terms of weight distribution, but every driver's in the same boat. I'm just wondering... I was about to say, yeah, so Vince has just said you can actually change whether you take a left-hand drive version or a right-hand drive version. So that's an interesting one. So you can actually decide where you want that weight distribution. Theoretically, it should be even, because one track kind of wiggles around to the left and the other track kind of wiggles around to the right. So I guess it's all down to driver preference. Ultimately, I really don't think it will matter too much in terms of the lap times. But I will pay attention to that now in the last few rounds of this round of 16. See if I can spot who's driving what layout of the car. It might be that they're all doing left-hand drive versions, but anyway. So, a little bit more of a hold for this one than we've had in the previous races. Hopefully everything's still okay between the two drivers. As we get ready for the second race in this best of 3. Now, we're not waiting for the warm-up timer to go to 0, luckily, but here we go. Back to the pits. I think the drivers will head out any second now. Loic Meunier on the left-hand side, Davide Zanini on the right, as I said before. Here we go then, second time of asking. Come on Loic, get yourself out. There we go. And now we can get those lights illuminated as they go at it for the second time of asking. Not sure why the YouTube chat is all talking about Mike Bell right now, but anyway. I guess we'll see him at GPVWC eventually. And the red light's about to go out, and off we go. A slightly better start for Loic Meunier this time. As he gets up the hill, Davide Zanini goes over the top, over the bridge. and through what Ed Hunter described yesterday as looking like an active volcano, drifting it out through the hairpins. This would be an ideal circuit for drift racing. And I think one of these years we've got to get a drift car for the Race of Champions. That would be quite something indeed. Zanini across the line. Another half lap to go on this this time around. I'll be keeping an eye on the sector splits as well, although it's a little harder to tell exactly who has the advantage than if you just wait till the end of the first lap. Should be Loic Mounier though, just by the look of that first race. But Zanini has been much smoother this time around. He's a little closer than he was in the first race. The gap 1.3 seconds now. And here is Loic Mounier. And this is how you drive one of these radical SR3 RSXs on such a tight and twisty course. Of course, on a proper race circuit, one with more straights and longer corners and all that, you really wouldn't want to drive it like this at all. You toast the rear tyres. That's very wide from Loic Mounier. That's like the mistake we saw from Zanini in the first race, but it seemed to be a conscious decision there. The track looks quite different from this camera angle, but I'm sure it hasn't transmogrified at all. We've got one more corner, and look at that, very sideways, and he claps the wall, but he's still ahead. Loic Mounier will go through to the round of 16, having won by 1.4 seconds. Again, not quite the fastest of races, and a little awkward from both drivers, but Mounier does progress ahead of Davide Zanini, who wasn't quite able to replicate the form of Loic Mounier's car. And Mounier, of course, will face Owen McGorgy in the round of 16, unless I'm very much mistaken. Yes, indeed, he will face Owen McGorgy in just under an hour's time, if the schedule goes to plan. So that means that we've now had 5 out of 8 drivers determined for the round of 16. We've got 3 more matchups to go. And the next one is a big one. Tom Stevens, the second seeded driver, will be in this one. He, of course, raced in Super League this year and won 4 races. Very nearly won the championship. 22 points off in the end. Tragically missed out on being able to take it to Jake Dennehan at the final round as a result of a first lap collision at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But still did a wonderful job and was extremely consistent all year long, only finishing outside of the top 5 on that one occasion at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And he will be going up against Darius Andre, who only had 1 outing all year in the GPVWC career ladder. Failed to finish on that particular occasion, but he's back and he's taking part in the Race of Champions as one of the invitational drivers. Darius Andre will be a force to be reckoned with, despite not qualifying as a result of the career ladder position. And yesterday, of course, they both beat their respective opponents. Tom Stevens beat Christos Sfilo. There was quite a dramatic moment in the second race between the two, where he seemed to deliberately back off the pace and let Christos through to manufacture a best of 3, and ended up beating Christos in the third race, so he did progress in the end. Darius Andre fought against Lucas Thielen, and it was 2-1 between the two, because Darius, I think, had a disconnection in his second race, if I remember correctly. I think that was Darius anyway. And so he ended up progressing after a best of 3, as did Tom Stevens. Stevens was the 3rd fastest driver overall at the end of yesterday, and is still a real contender for the victory in this tournament. Of course, later on, he's got some pretty tough nuts to crack. He may have to go up against Alex Lahoe, Dylan Platt, Carlos Martin. Of course, first of all, he's got to beat Darius Andre. And of course, the final's going to be tough no matter who you're against, and no matter who you are. Kaikera says, I sent Alex Lahu all my predictions. So far, all of them came true. Oh, wow. Well done. I think, to be honest, I think all of my predictions have come true so far as well, but it certainly hasn't gone down exactly as I expected. The McGorky-Vassman battle was a lot closer than I expected for a start, so we're still going to give props to David Vassman for that. And he's in the YouTube chat. Hello, David. Very good. Sorry, were you going to say something there, Vince? Tom Stevens running a bit late. Right, what are we going to do about that? Do we know what the plan is? It is... Okay, so he should be there at 8. Right, well that's good because 8 is when his bracket is actually scheduled for. Of course, if he is late for that bracket, then it will probably be given as a bye to Darius Andre, because yesterday that's what happened with, of course, Adam Maguire and Mark Schluter. We're not sure if they were entirely able, or we're not sure if they were intending to turn up or if they forgot or anything like that, but Mark Schluter overslept according to Vince Gutt. Goodness. Hold on, Mark's in Germany. How did he oversleep till like 8 o'clock? That's... He took a nap and just didn't wake up. Oh my goodness. Well, that's quite something. And then unsure about Adam Maguire, but that's okay. Kaikera says, my prediction is Darius Andre versus McGorky in the final, and Owen wins. That would be an interesting one. It is theoretically possible, of course, because McGorky is in that top half, Andre is in that bottom half, so that is a final that could happen. McGorky's got to overcome Loic Mounier first, and Andre's got to overcome Tom Stevens, potentially Hygo Poom, Shimon Frelick, Lahu, Platt, Martin. He's got his work cut out for sure. What are your predictions, Caitlin? Says Carlos Martin. Well, now you put me on the spot. I'd feel silly not suggesting that you could beat Dylan Platt, but to be honest, I think that's going to be an extremely close one. I think for this next match, Stevens versus Andre, I think Stevens just about has the edge, but Darius, you can never underestimate him for sure. He is a feisty driver. And thank you all very much for the love in the YouTube chat. I very much appreciate that from all of you guys. I have to admit, this has been a tough one so far, just because of, unfortunately, Ed Hunter not being able to make it for this second split, or the second day of action. But it's okay, the drivers are keeping it fun for me by providing the best of action that they possibly can. And we're going to see plenty more of that, I'm sure. I'm so excited for the Platt versus Martin one later on. I think that's going to be the closest of the finals. And I'm being told that Tom Stevens is on the server now, so we can get ready for the next bracket. Apologies if we put him on the spot a bit, or maybe panicked anyone, because Tom is not late by any means. In fact, he is just on time. It's just that we were running early, so we were hoping to get his bracket going as soon as possible, if at all possible. But of course, he only needed to be here by 8. That's what the bracket was scheduled as, and so it really doesn't matter that he's only just got onto the server. Alex Deho says, I'm ready for either Carlos Martin or Dylan Platt here. Well, those are the drivers you're going up against, Alex, and they are tough cookies, so brace yourself. But then again, of course, Alex was the fastest driver in the Alpine yesterday, and the second fastest driver so far in the Radicals. Platt and Martin equally have a tough cookie on their hands. Kaikera says, Alex, you have all my predictions, what's to happen? Okay, Kaikera, who are you predicting for this next one? Oh, well, you have to be predicting Darius Andre, of course, if it's going to be a Darius Andre final. So, I guess we already have your answer for that one. So we do have some split predictions for this one. And I do have to admit, out of the out of the matches that are still coming up, I think this one has got to be one to look forward to. Denham versus Maggio could be close. I mean, we don't know how they're going to go in the Renault RSO1s. Mounier and McGorky both made little mistakes on their run, so I guess it's going to be down to who's cleaner out of the two of those. Poom versus Frelick, those two know each other quite well, they've fought plenty of times. So those are all of the matches that we know are going to happen. Any second now, we should be able to... Yep, any second now we've got to get going for this race. Alice Martin says Shimon versus Alex, semi-finals for me. Again, that could very much end up happening as well. And then Jake and Owen. Okay, interesting stuff. So it's going to be Darius Andre starting from the left-hand grid, and Tom Stevens starting from the right, in that bright red radical there. That's a very typical radical livery. And away we go for the first of 3 races in this particular matchup. One of the most competitive matchups of the round of 16. Tom Stevens, remember, the second seeded driver. Darius Andre, a real breakthrough after returning to GPWC pretty much for yesterday. Darius Andre, who we're watching now, he beat Lucas Thylan 2-1. Tom Stevens beat Christos Spilo 2-1. Although in both of those races, there's definitely an asterisk that 2-1 score. Does Darius's connection hold up? I believe that's what took him out of that second race yesterday. Although I haven't actually heard the exact reason he left. Out of the turn he comes. The first lap. Oh, it's so tight. Oh, and Darius, if he hadn't touched the wall coming out of that corner there, it would have been very dead heat across the line. So Tom Stevens does lead by 0.2 of a second. Now, Darius Andre making a little bit of an error coming out of that last turn, clipping the inside barrier, forcing into that outside corner. Outside barrier, sorry. As I have a mini stroke while reading. I think, there we go. So you can see Tom with a little bit to gain on this last lap. Stevens' second lap actually was pretty good there. 26.9 on the longer of the 2 circuits. Not bad whatsoever. This could be very close as they come out of the final corner. Who's it going to be? Oh, it's so close! By 0.2 of a second. So Andre, despite making a mistake on that first lap, has brought it back with a lap time of 49.188. And Darius Andre goes into the second of the best of 3, 1 up against Tom Stevens. Who would have predicted that? Well, Kaikera certainly did. And congratulations for that. But of course, I'm talking a bit early because they've still got to do it all over again. Carter McCorman says Darius choke. No, not quite, not quite. It almost looked as if he choked it, but brought it back. Carter, of course, Darius's former team boss, I believe, when TCSR. Not sure if Darius is still affiliated with TCSR in any championships, but I'm sure Carter can tell us that. And I mentioned this yesterday. I'm trying to remember if me and Darius ever actually raced as teammates. I don't know if we did. I know we were both involved in TCSR at a similar time, but I don't think we ever actually raced as teams. Unless we did that in GPVWC in a different team. I don't know, but anyway. Back to the grid. This time Tom Stevens will have the left lane, Darius Andre will have the right lane. And away they go. Stevens with a slightly better start up towards the start line. Over the hill. Look at the different lines. They're actually taking it very different to how the Alpines took it yesterday. Yesterday, the Alpines took a very traditional racing line, ducking to the inside of that corner over the crest of the hill. The Radicals, people have actually been hanging quite wide, I've noticed, possibly due to just how savage the bottoming out problem is. Oh, look at Darius touching the wall again, just as he did in the first race. We know that he can come back from that because he did it the first time. He's just got to do it again. And another thing that I should point out very quickly, go on to the second lap, is that Darius is in a left-hand drive radical and Stevens is in a right-hand drive radical, but look how even they are. Even Stevens, I guess you could say, as they cross the line, with Darius just 1/10 of a second up. This could still go either way, but if Tom Stevens is not able to bring it back, then Darius Andre will have knocked out the second-seeded driver in just the round of 16. Here is Tom Stevens. This has to be the lap of his life, surely. Across the line he goes. How clean can he be? He's right up against the barrier. That's where he wanted to be. That's the line through there. We've seen that emerging over the course of the day. Nearly touches the wall. Didn't quite get the same kind of drift that we've seen from the likes of McGorgy and Wasserman and some of the other drivers through there. Up to the wall. It's going to be a close one. To the line they go. And Darius Andre has it! Darius Andre goes through by 9/10 of a second. So that must have been a thrilling final lap on board with Darius Andre. A 49.0 is his lap time, and he has knocked out the second-seeded driver in just a round of 16. Congratulations to Darius Andre. I said that we couldn't underestimate him, and we absolutely should not have done. Mateus Pischan says my predictions are still flawless. I do have to admit, with all due respect to Darius, I expected Tom to win that. So my predictions, for the first time, have a blot on their record. But yes, Darius Andre there, congratulations for knocking out one of the heavy hitters in the competition. That is potentially the biggest upset that we've seen so far, and a very good performance from that driver there. Great stuff, and the YouTube chat there. So I'm just reading a comment from Dan Hayek. Caitlin, we crashed together at 2021 when I was driving in Darius's car, if that helps at all. Did we? 2021 Magicor. That would have been Formula Sprint 2. I scored a point on that day in race 2, but I can't... Is it race 1? I can't even remember that collision. I hope it wasn't my fault. But yeah, that might have been Darius's car. Fair enough. Anyway, there's the bracket. We haven't yet updated it with Andre moving through. He will fight whoever wins out of Hygo Poom and Shimon Frelich. And that is actually the next battle. So that's the next one to be decided. Hygo Poom, the 7th seeded driver, versus Shimon Frelich, the 10th seeded driver. Pretty close in terms of performance. Frelich, I think, was slightly faster yesterday. I think there was much in it. And very different cars, of course. Both of these drivers did particularly well in the GPVWC Championships this year, the Real Ladder Championships, and that's how they were able to qualify for this. Hygo, of course, was 3rd in Super Light, which is why he has that 7th place seed. He ended up actually winning a race in that championship, the very last race of the year at the Brazilian round, and just pit Sandeep Singh to that 3rd place spot in the Drivers' Championship. Shimon Frelich was 2nd in the FS1 Championship, losing out to his teammate Jack Mayer in those particular standings, but had a grand total of 7 victories by the look of it over the course of the year, which is absolutely nothing to be sniffed at whatsoever. Actually 3 victories in a row to start the season off, so he would have been disappointed to lose it in the end. And Shimon, of course, a fellow broadcaster, having done the cameras for much of the Super League season this year. And these two, as with most of the drivers here, have raced each other in the past. Didn't race each other this year, but I'm pretty sure they've raced each other in the past. I would be very surprised if they hadn't. Hygo Poom also made a couple of outings, made 4 outings in the Super League Championship this year, scored points with a 12th place finish at the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. So it's going to be Shimon Frelich on the left-hand side. Don't tell me they've gone for the same livery. Looks like they have. So Shimon Frelich on the left-hand side of the grid, on the right-hand side of the grid. Interestingly, we have a difference of opinion in terms of the side of the car they're starting in as well. Hygo Poom, a left-hand drive, and Shimon Frelick a right-hand drive. So, as we saw in the last race, it probably doesn't make much difference, but it does make a difference to them. Hygo Poom hanging it out there through the hairpin. That's an interesting corner there. There have been some drivers really pushing the track limits, working out exactly what does and doesn't count. To be honest, these cars are wide enough that I don't think you're really worried about the track limits through there. The curb does count. The only place where you have to worry is where you might be able to cut a chicane or something along those lines. Look at Hygo Poom once again treating this like a drift track. Through the double apex final turn. Look how close they... Oh my goodness. That was too close to call there on that first lap. But Shimon Frelick goes on to the second lap. 7 thousandths of a second ahead. Goodness me. Well, that means, of course, that it's really all down to this second lap here. And who can be the fastest over this... I think it's about a 2-mile course. No, it's under that, isn't it? Oh. 900 and something meters, yeah, that makes sense. 2-mile race is more to the point. 2-kilometer race. So, towards the tunnel once again, Shimon Frelick hooking it up over the curbs. That's so important. He heads through the tunnel, and when he emerges, I'm sure he will be side by side with Hygo once again. Who wins? Shimon wins by 6-7 tenths of a second. So Shimon Frelick, despite them being pretty much exactly equal on the first lap, was not able Hygo Poom was not able to keep up with Shimon Frelick that second time around. And after a very close race, it goes in second just ahead. So this time it will be Frelick starting on the left and Poom starting on the right, which is where they finished that first race. Kaikera says, "This is wild. Wow, this is the lovely thing that we admire about the Race of Champions, that it is so unpredictable because it's so different from all of the other racing that we do over the course of a normal GPWC year. It's so different from the career ladder. It's so short as well. You really can't afford to make any mistakes. It's like being a 100-meter sprinter, Usain Bolt or the like, and just thinking, right, it comes down to these next, I guess in his case it's like 10 seconds, but in this case it's more like a minute and a half. But even so, a ridiculously short race. It's like 1 lap of Silverstone if you think about that. 1 lap of a shorter circuit. And the lights go out. Shimon Frelick leads, gets the jump on Hygo Poom. Yesterday, Frelick had the best starts that we saw from any driver in the Alpine. He was away like a scalded cat, or as I can't actually remember what Ed Hunter said. He said something pretty interesting. Scalded something or other, but he got away very well, and almost looked like a jump start on several occasions. Did what he used to do. Now onto the second half of the first lap, past the sausage curbs. Rather vicious looking things. You really wouldn't want to find yourself out there by any mistake. Great line, great car control through that second part of the corner there. Shimon Frelick knows that it's the exits that count. Leads onto the second lap by 4 tenths of a second. So Shimon Frelick is ahead, but only just. This could still go either way. Hygo Poom here. Again, beautiful lines. Really, really nice car control. Little bit of an overcorrection on the exit maybe. Over rotation rather. But it really is about slotting the car in. Anyone with rallycross experience will have an advantage here. I don't think that was the best of lines there. I think he had a little panic on the entrance. Realised he hadn't quite hooked it up right. Come on though, we can't see what's going on with Shimon Frelick here, so for all we know he could be making a hash of it. And Hygo Poom could be about to win. Here's the final corner. Oh, he's so sideways, and Shimon Frelick goes through. Shimon Frelick wins by 6 tenths of a second. Another very close race. And hats off to both drivers for really going for it there. But Shimon Frelick is the driver who will progress from the round of 32 to the round of 16, and he will fight against Darius Andre in the round of 16. Wonderful stuff there from Shimon Frelick, and again the lower seeded driver winning that particular race. So we have one more matchup to be decided from the round of 32, and if it's okay, I think I'm going to take a very short break for that one, considering we'll have done 8 races out of 16. I'm completely by myself, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For the time being, we are looking forward to seeing Dylan Platt versus Carlos Martin. Now, this is a match that I have to admit I've not really been able to call coming into today. I've been going back and forth. I think Dylan Platt is a driver that we've really been sleeping on, talking about the big names like Tom Stevens, Darius Andre, Jake Dennehan, Alex Lahoe, etc. Alex Lahoe, of course, proving himself to be a big name after that lap time yesterday. But Dylan Platt, I think, is a driver who is extremely adaptable and could well turn up in this tournament. But Carlos Martin, oh my goodness, what a year he's right. He has been coming out of nowhere. Of course, Martin qualified as a result of being 3rd in the FS1 championship, and you know, previously we hadn't really heard about it. Seen him doing endurance racing, I think that was Carlos anyway, but in FSR, yes, but I think I've seen him doing endurance racing as well. Martin this year won 5 races in the FS1 championship, fortunately missed out on the Belgian round, which put him quite a long way back from the TOP esports drivers in a league of their own all season long. But even so, Martin was best of the rest, beating anyone else who took part in the competition, including several other drivers who are still in this tournament here. And then of course Dylan Platt, who was 2nd in the Super Lights Championship, 1 victory. He won at the Belgian round, although of course they have fewer races in SL2 than they do in FS1, so you can't really compare their win record, especially since SL2 is theoretically a more competitive series as well. And Dylan Platt was extremely competitive in it all the way through the year. Many podiums too. Owen McGorky, of course, absolutely ran away with the champion. No one could keep up with Owen McGorky for the majority of the year. Not Platt, not anyone. So that's really not a something that can reflect badly on his record. So now we wait for the battle between Dylan Platt and Carlos Martin, which is one that I've been looking forward to all day. Kaikera says Carlos W expected, so not only has he just given him a nickname, but he's also predicted him to race. Mateus Pischan says, I'm still flawless in, but I feel like it's going to fall apart now because this race is 50-50. Yeah, I would say so as well. Kaikira says, my first error in predictions in that last race, well done Shimon. Had Hygo Poom to progress. Yep, that would make sense, but Shimon Frelick, you can't underestimate him, you really cannot. And now we get ready for the race between Martin and Platt, both left-hand drive radical. Martin, I think, will start from the left according to race view. Platt will start on the right, unless I am very much mistaken. Alex Matthew says, my pants are getting heavier from just facing in about 10 minutes time. Would that be a certain Jake Dennehan round? I think unfortunately for you it is, but I'm sure that's going to be a close one nonetheless. Here come the lights, and when they go out we will be underway for Martin versus Platt. Martin in the white car, Platt in the turquoise car. Up towards the first corner they go. Carlos Martin. Ooh, taking a lot of curb, bit of grass too. Not quite drifting it in the same way that we've seen some other drivers. Almost looks like he has more rear grip than. Out of that final turn he goes, onto another lap. Decent Sector 2, not the best we've seen, but decent. Sector 2 of course being basically a lap in this car. Although, of course, you have that second half of the lap as well. Through the tunnel he goes. It's a very different driving. You can very visibly see how different he is doing it to some of the other competitors. But he is ahead of Dylan Platt by 9/10 of a second, going on to the second lap now. So Martin, with the early lead. Platt with all to work for. And a very different driving style to Carlos Martin too. Much more sideways. Through the tunnel now. You see the car moving as he gets on the acceleration. That corner scares me down by the tunnel. You're braking and drifting and turning all at the same time, and then you're expected to get on the power, and the outside wall should come straight at you. So, honestly, I'm kind of glad these drivers are doing it. I'm sure it's a lot of fun. Out of the final corner, and who's it going to be? It's Carlos Martin for the first race by just over a second. Not really that much in it. Dylan Platt definitely has more to give, and they're going to have to do it all again. So Carlos Martin draws first blood in what we expected to be a very close matchup, and it has very much been a very close matchup. And now we go to the other side. Kaikira says Dylan is too drunk to win today. Happy birthday to them. Is that true? I didn't even know that. Well, congratulations, happy birthday to Dylan Platt. Not sure how old he is, or if it is indeed his birthday, but happy birthday nonetheless. And I'm sure if he does lose this particular round, it won't sour his day too much. I hope it anyway, because Carlos Martin is one of the best drivers to lose to, I'm sure. Big 19, says Hygo Boom. Very good. We do have some real youngsters in this series. But Dylan Platt apparently 19 today, according to Kaikira and Hygo Boom. Very good stuff. So Platt this time will go from the left-hand side of the grid. Carlos Martin will go from the right. Here they go to the grid now. And remember, if Carlos Martin wins this race, then he will go through, and our round of 16 will be completely decided. They will have to face Alex Laho in the next round, one of the fastest drivers in the competition. And the lights go out, away we go. Platt, it looks like Martin's got a better start actually, a little bit of a better start, maybe 1/10 of a second, heading up to the first corner. That's really not going to matter much in the grand scheme of things if Platt can push on. Come on, Dylan, bring it to a best of 3. We haven't seen many today. It would be wonderful stuff if we could go to a decider round. Across the line he goes. The birthday boy on his second quarter of the race now. It goes by so quickly. It is so different to the career ladder. That was a lovely line. Oh, I really like that one there, as he hooked it towards the exit. The inside at the exit. That would have set him up very well for the next couple of corners. Out to the final turn. Martin has the lead, just as he did in the first race. The gap is 0.8 of a second. So now the onus is on Carlos Martin. Can he get a clean lap? If he does, he should go through now. Over the curbs he goes. Again, the car sparks. Towards the tunnel. He's got half a lap to go now. And it looks to be a quicker race than the first one as well. This is a very impressive drive from both cars. Oh, look at that, keeping it very tight. Difficulty with that, of course, is if you have to touch the brakes slightly, just to bring the front around midway through the corner, so the car doesn't spin. That's something that some of these drivers may have had to deal with, but Carlos Martin is going to go through, because look at that, he has won the second race ahead of the birthday boy Dylan Platt. 1.5 seconds is the gap. So Carlos Martin progresses, but well done to Dylan for putting in such a strong showing. He was very good yesterday as well, beating Dominic Koroshavin in that race. And Carlos Martin just proved to be a little too much for him. But happy birthday nonetheless. I'm sure we will be seeing plenty more of Dylan Platt in the years to come here in GPWC. Mateus Bissan says, okay, I lost the predictions, GG. So obviously he had Dylan to go through to the round of 16, but Carlos Martin, absolutely not to be overestimated, or underestimated, sorry. Now I'm going to take a very quick break for the next round. I know the next round's coming up very shortly, but I very much have to go get myself a drink. I will try to be back before they're on the grid if that's okay. BRB. Alright, thank you very much for sticking by, guys. I have just gone and absolutely guzzled some orange juice because I very much needed it. But yes, we are back, and we have a brand new car to introduce. Meet the Renault RS01. This car was designed to perform the GT3, basically GT3 specs, despite never being homologated as a full-on GT3 car, and absolutely racking it around the circuit. Look how fast it is! Incredible! Absolutely racking it around the circuit right now. Jake Dennehan and Alessandro Maggio. This is our first quarter-final of the competition. The Renaults will be used for all of the quarter-finals. Jake Dennehan, of course, has already had quite a tournament, beating both Noah Tuamela and Luke Maguire. And now, with by what looks to be, yeah, this is easily the fastest car of the lot, looking at the lap times. Jake lights those rear tyres up and flies through the double apex right-hander. Electric stuff. And the gap as they go into the second lap is just under a second now, as he goes through ahead of Alessandro Maggio. Maggio said that his pants were getting heavier just thinking about the prospect of fighting Jake Dennehan. And yeah, I can absolutely understand why. But here he goes onto the second lap of action. Good! Oh, he spun it! No! Oh, he's in the wall! Alessandro Maggio has put the car in the barriers on the lap of competition. And it looks as if Jake Dennehan is going to go through. Obviously, oh, it's all over. Oh, where's Jake going? Was that... Well, there he is. Jake's lost his rear wing. What is going on? Now, Jake's just got to finish it. He's not finished yet. He's got another lap to do. So he's just got to take it slowly around the track now. Someone's got to tell him that that Maggio is out of the race. That is crazy stuff. So Maggio's spun the car out, and to be honest, probably shouldn't have called it a day when he did, because otherwise he might well have been able to go through. Dennehan's finished the race. Okay, so Dennehan, despite seemingly having an accident of his own, has gone through to the next round. Now I noticed, so when Maggio spun, I noticed that Dennehan was in the background, on the wrong side of the barrier for some reason. I noticed him spinning the car around without a rear wing, and I have to admit, I don't know what was going on there. Mateus Pesan says, so Dennehan lost his rear wing out of the banking, then Maggio spun in the bank. Okay, so... yeah, so basically... yeah, okay. I think Alessandro is probably going to be kicking himself for retiring, because if he kept going, he might well have been able to beat Jake Dennehan in the first round. Jake, I think, did finish, and so... oh, goodness. Yeah, so Dummy Space says, Alessandro said it's Jova and retired, and then he realised that Jake had crashed. Goodness me, that's gotta suck. Well, they get another opportunity, of course. That was the craziest race we've seen so far. Renault RS01s. I was literally just about to say, I don't know how the things keep up with it, the speed that they're going around here. And I guess the answer is that they didn't. But anyway, they have another opportunity. By the way, I was keeping track of the times that were being set in the radicals. Dennehan actually had the fastest time as they're about to get underway. Once again, Maggio this time right, Dennehan on the left. Dennehan had the fastest time. Well, who had the second fastest time? David Wasserman had the third fastest lap time, despite being knocked out of the competition. So, unfortunate stuff for David there, but Dennehan's still the driver to beat. He and Laho have been in the top two in both cars that we've seen so far, but he's got to keep it under control for this race. Maggio now onto the second half of a lap. Still has the rear wing about him and isn't pointing away. Maxim Bewley says, that's why you never give up. Yes, indeed. That does make a lot of sense. Maggio now through the double right-hander. Not a bad lap. Not a bad lap at all. 0.4 of a second gap as Jake Dennehan goes on to the second lap. So Jake leading. Only just, though. And half a second is very much the swing margin, where drivers can just gain and lose time depending on little mistakes. Over the bridge, the cars really do get air there. They get so light over the top of the hill. if you zoom in, the car's wheels are off the ground. And that's absolutely what caught out Alessandro Maggio in the last race. Jake seems to have kept it under control. He's got another corner to go, and then we will find out. Look how sideways he is. Has he got it? Yes, he has. Jake Dennehan. Oh, Maggio spins it across the line. 9/10 of a second was the gap, and the lap time was 42.922. So I'm going to mark that down. 42.922 by Jake Dennehan, and he progresses to the semi-final. And will probably be very glad that he doesn't have to deal with this car anymore. What a race, though! What a race! And I can't believe that it came down to a crash for Alessandro Maggio. Crazy, crazy stuff. And luckily, they ended up having a much cleaner second race with no accidents until they were literally on the start-finish line. But anyway, that was that. Kaikira says, well, Maggio's been handed a lesson up now. Yep, unfortunately, he won't be able to use that again, but congrats to Alessandro for getting this far in the competition, of course beating both Jack Mayer and Sylvie Offit. The next quarter-final, looking at the schedule, will be sorry, I just mixed their name together. Owen McGorgy versus Loic Mounier. I was about to call them Oic McMounier or something like that. And these two, of course, have had quite a progression in the competition so far in their own right. Owen McGorgy has already had some tough opponents. Yesterday he beat Mateusz Piszczan. Today he beat David Wasserman. That was a very close tournament. But remember, Wasserman was the third fastest driver in those radicals, and McGorgy still managed to beat him. He didn't quite have the same lap time, but he was close enough that it did not matter. So McGorgy, still a force to be reckoned with. Meanwhile, Loic Mounier, his career progression, or his tournament progression looks like this. He beat Luke Mitchell yesterday, and then today beat Davide Zanini, and now we'll have to face Owen McGorgy in the quarter-finals. It's a very different car, and if Dennehan and Maggio struggle to control it, then I hate to think what some other drivers would have done, but even so, these next drivers will have to face it. Alex Maggio, well, he's gracious in defeat, says GG in the YouTube chat. Congrats, Alex, on really pushing into the line there. The second race was actually not that distant in the end, being 4/10 of a second per lap off Jake Dennehan. It's not really that much in the grand scheme of things. I'd be way off. I'd have crashed easily, but you know, if you can get on top of the speed of this Renault RS, then you can control it because it's got tons of grip. It's the speed that catches people off guard, and the fact that you literally get air over the jump at the top of the hill. It's unbelievable stuff. I really wasn't expecting it to be that fast. It is faster in terms of its lap times than the Academy car was yesterday, believe it or not. It's literally faster than a Slicks and Wings single-seater. So here we are on the grid. Loic Mounier on the left-hand side, Owen McGorgy on the right. Loic in the classic Renault RS01 livery. They actually released the car in way back in 2014, I think it came out. And Owen McGorgy in a lovely darker black and red livery. He took a slightly faster start, got so close, might have touched over the crest of the hill, flies into the hairpins over the curb there, but I think that's still within the track limits. Remember to keep at least 2 wheels on the curb, but I think he did. And then under the track he goes. How did the drivers not touch the wall on the inside there? So close to it. And then the outside through here as well. Look at him kicking the tail out. Owen can't really drift this car in the same way that he's drifted the others, but even so, he's still so fast. 3/10 of a second faster than Loic Mounier on that last lap, but Mounier's losing it. Oh, good save. It looked as if he was going to spear into that barrier there. But remember, all it's going to take is for McGorgy, same thing. Oh, and there's the rear wing. Mounier has hit the wall, and he's going to cross the line for another lap. I don't think he knows yet. goes. I was about to say, I don't think he knows he doesn't have a rear wing. Is he going to reverse it to the line? Come on, Loic. Well, he's reversing to the line. I think if it's okay, we should probably look at McGorgy now to make sure he gets to the line safely. And here he is out of the final corner. And Owen does cross the line, wings and all. And absolutely flying. Munio, however, flying without wings, has unfortunately not been able to find the finish line just yet. Oh, and they've met each other. Come on, Owen, give him a helping hand to the finish line. You can do it. Camaraderie and all that. Nah, never mind. Okay, so McGorgy goes into one win up. Mounier knows what he has to do to be a little better. It was looking like quite a close race, and that happened. And it could still be a close race if Mounier can bring one back. Goodness. Shimon Frelick in the YouTube chat was right, wasn't he? The rear wings really do seem to be made out of clay or something like that. Something brittle. It really did just snap off the second he even looked at the barrier. And unfortunately, once you lose your rear wing, there's not really much you can do. And it probably took him a while to realise he didn't have a rear wing as well. Because as he went over the crest of the hill, he seemed to have absolutely no idea. And that's why he ended up pointing backwards. So Owen McGorgy this time will start from the left-hand side of the grid. Loic Mounier will start from the right. They both have fully intact cars again, because that's the beauty of sim racing. You can basically just reset and go again. Shout out as well to the race director, Menno Plont, for keeping us running in such quick succession. And it's go again. Oh, and McGorgy gets a slightly better start. Quite a big advantage at the start there as Mounier wall runs around the bridge. This is where he found himself pointing backwards in the last race. And into the tunnel he goes. Oh, look at that. That's a picture and a half, isn't it? He's going to hit the wall, but his rear wing stays intact. He's going for it. He knows he needs this victory here. But I think he's going for it a little too hard at this point in time. The Renault RS01 series, back when they used to run that, was a crash fest in its own right. Some pretty large accidents, despite their only 2 years of competition in 2015 and 16. Across the line they go, 1.5 seconds the gap. I personally got to see the Renault RS01 series, and a car managed to absolutely destroy itself at Cops, Max Verstappen style, qualifying when I was walking past. And that really is par for the course for this car, because it is such a beast. Oh, McGorgy though, controlling it well through the bridge, past Volcano Bend, I think I'm going to call that one. Was that a rear wing on the track? That can't be. Unless Mounier's crashed again, but unfortunately I think he might have done. Oh, he has. He's facing backwards. Well, there you go. Owen McGorgy's going to creep the line. He crosses the line and wins the second race ahead of Loic Mounier, who appears to be going backwards for Christmas once again. And so Owen McGorgy goes through by virtue of finishing them. But well done to Loic for giving it your best shot. I did say you pushed a little too hard there, but to be honest, that's understandable. And through will go Owen McGorgy to the next round, and a well-deserved victory. McGorgy actually faster than Denahan's run. Denahan apparently went quicker on the server according to the lap times, but McGorgy's 42.688, which he set in the first race, that is enough to put him at the top of the times by my reckoning. So that was the second quarterfinal now, and it means that Jake Denahan will be facing Owen McGorgy in the semi-finals. That will be a battle for the ages, and I really do mean that, as overused as that term is. Next on the schedule, Darius Andre will be facing Shimon Frelick. Both of these drivers overcame higher seeded opponents in the last round in order to progress, and very much deserved their place in the quarterfinals of this competition. So what do you reckon? Are they on borrowed time, or are they genuinely quick? Well, we know they are genuinely quick, but now they have to fight each other. Darius Andre yesterday beat Lucas Stylen. Today he absolutely shocked the field by knocking out Tom Stevens, the second seeded driver and second place in this year's Super League Championship. It was a very close race, but he managed it. Meanwhile, Shimon Frelich yesterday managed to beat Magnus Ockenhaug, and today has knocked out Hygo Poom, again a higher seeded driver. Shimon's still 10th seed in his own right, which makes him the third highest seeded driver still in the competition. Isn't that fascinating? The top three highest seeded drivers still remain are 1st, 5th and 10th seed. Admittedly, 3rd and 4th seed did pull out of the competition before it even started, and I think they would have had something to say about the performance that the other drivers are showing. But even so, very impressive stuff, and I cannot wait to see what ends up happening between Darius Andre and Shimon Frelich here. And whoever wins this will go up against whoever wins the next race, Alex Lahoud and Carlos Martin, which will be in just a few minutes' time after this. So the Andre Frelich match. Goodness, we're running quite far ahead of schedule, aren't we? It's scheduled for about 15 minutes from now, so hopefully we're not going to have to wait this whole time. But if we do, I guess that would only be fair. Ah, they're both on the server. Good, good. Well, I guess running ahead of time is much better than running behind. I guess the only thing that we'd need to make sure of is that if either of the drivers wasn't ready, we'd have to give them until that 9 o'clock cutoff before declaring them absent, but we won't have to worry about that. Shimon Frelich will be starting on the left in the white car, Darius Andre starting on the right in the yellow car. Again, that classic Renault RS01 livery. Maxime Bewley says, sucks to have missed this, would have fated had I not worked yesterday. Yeah, you did get automatic qualification, but if you had worked, that does make sense. Away they go. I think Frelich had a slightly better start. There wasn't much in it, but he had a slightly better start. Now, it was Frelich who described the rear wings being made of paper. So, let's see if he can protect his, make sure it doesn't get torn off in the course of the competition. Across the line he goes, over the hill, and far away. Shimon, of course, designed or edited that wonderful teaser promo that we saw before the start of the broadcast today and yesterday. And and Andre has stopped in the tunnel. The car has come to a complete stop, so all Frelich needs to do now is finish the race. Darius Andre is going absolutely nowhere, and there doesn't appear to be any life in the car. So Shimon Frelich will go into the second race one victory ahead, and he did well to avoid that RS01 in the tunnel there. That would have been an easy red flag if this was the actual race of champions. Alex Lahoud says, question mark, question mark. Yes, I have to admit, that would be my response as well. Well, he knows he's there now at least, so he's not going to have to worry about... Come on, keep it clean. There we go. There was your onboard shot of Shimon. He did well to avoid him that first time around, to be honest, because that car would have come out of absolutely nowhere. According to Mateus, he's got throttle on, but he's not going anywhere. So that sounds like some kind of technical issue to me. Not with the car, but with his software or hardware. And a very similar thing happened yesterday, where he disconnected from one of the races and ended up very nearly being knocked out of the competition as a result of that. And so, a real problem here for Darius Andre. Let's hope that he can get it working again before the second race. Darius said in-game, I quote, my wheel broke, says Mateus Pizjan. So, if his wheel is fully broken, then unfortunately that will be him out of this competition. and through no fault of his own, and we won't even know how competitive he could have been in the Renault RSO 1. That would be a big, big shame. I want to see actually, what was Shimon's lap time in 42.943. So despite having a car well and truly in his way in the tunnel, Shimon was still third fastest of the drivers we've seen in the Renault car, slightly quicker than Alessandro Maggio was earlier. But unfortunately, and Andre has left the server, I'm afraid. I mean, we haven't got confirmation of this yet, so I'm not going to say for sure that that is the case, but it looks as if the competition is over for Darius Andre through no fault of his own. So Mounier is not particularly happy. Sorry, I just looked at the Race of Champions chat on Discord to see if I could find anything about what's going on with Darius Andre. I've seen Loic saying, Renault worst car ever, just like real life brand. Come on, Loic, I drive a Renault. An old Megane, but anyway. Okay, Menoclont says wheel failure at Darius. That's what we expected. He says he is fixed. Now, I think it would, yeah, so it would probably be fair. He's trying to come back. Okay, it would probably be fair if we gave him about 9 minutes, yeah, because we are running ahead of schedule. So if he can get it fixed in that time, I think the race director will allow him to race again. But it does depend on whether it is a terminal break or whether it is something that can be fixed in the settings. Mateus Pishan says the Darius versus Shimon race is starting. Of course, that first race will count because races where cars have had technical issues, they have counted. They did count yesterday, so it's only fair that they count today as well. So Darius Andre would have to win both of the next races uncontested in order to go through. It's still possible. It is definitely possible, but only if he can come back. In the meantime, let's review the competition so far, shall we? So there were 3 ways of qualifying for this tournament. You could either qualify for it as a result of being one of the top 4 drivers in either Super League 1, that is Super League, SL2, that is Super Light, FS1 or FS2 this year. So 16 drivers qualified as a result of that. Then we had 12 drivers qualifying as a result of invitational entries, the so-called challenges. Basically, there were drivers who applied to be a part of the series who hadn't finished in the top 4 in the Career Ladder series, and they were given entries basically at the organisers' discretion. And then there was also a qualifying session, which enabled 4 other drivers to qualify for this event. So ultimately, we had 32 drivers start this championship. The drivers knocked out in the first round were Noah Tuamela, who did well against Jake Dennehan, but was knocked out of the competition after qualifying for it in the Academy Car. Joe Gillette, who very famously by this point propped the car up on its side. Very impressive accident, the likes I've never seen in an Alpine A100 before. Sandeep Singh, who just didn't seem to have the hang of it, apparently didn't do much practice, so that would make sense. Jack Nair, who was high seeded but didn't have his regular wheel, so ended up racing on a controller and couldn't quite get to grips with it. Adam Maguire, who didn't show up. Luke Mitchell, who lost out to Loic Mounier. Mateus Pischan, who lost out to Owen McGorgy. Frank Hamming, who did well, fought hard against David Wasserman, but ended up being knocked out. Krista Sfilo, who fought hard against Tom Stevens, was actually given a race victory as Tom Stevens manufactured a best of 3. Lucas Thylin, who won a race against Darius Andre as a result of an Andre disconnection. Jase Latanen, who lost out to Heigo Poom. Magnus Ockenhaug, who lost out to Shimon Frelich. Mark Schluter, who didn't turn up. Massimiliano Raboli, Dominic Koroshavin, Zolt Shooks were the other drivers knocked out in yesterday's competition. Meanwhile, Darius Andre does appear to be back on the service. Might have some racing soon. Then, of course, today we've seen the round of 6. Jake Dennehan overcoming Luke Maguire, Alex Lahoe overcoming Stein Hangraf, Owen McGorgy winning just against David Basserman, despite Basserman putting in a very spirited drive and third fastest driver in terms of lap times in the Radicals. Alessandro Maggio beat Silver Yoffert, Loic Mounier beat Davide Zanini, if I can speak. Darius Andre beat Tom Stevens, not the second seeded competition. Shimon Frelick here beat Heigo Poom, and Carlos Martin beat Dylan Platt. So that brings us up to where we are in quarter-finals now. Dennehan, McGorgy, and Frelick have already... No, sorry, Dennehan and McGorgy have already sealed their places in the semi-final. Now we just have to wait and see whether Darius Andre will be able to bring it back after that unfortunate wheel issue, first race between himself and Shimon Frelick, or whether it is all over. So Darius Andre will start from the left-hand side of the grid, which, yes, so that is the correct side to start from. And off they go again. So Darius has back in the race, and that happens now. Props to him for doing that. Amazing news, as Kaikara said in the chat. Look at him getting up on 2 wheels. But remember, he has to win both races now. Otherwise, his championship, his tournament, will be over. He's had 2 technical issues to deal with this tournament so far. This really has been more adversity than any driver deserved. But he's dealt with it, and he's still in the competition. Through the hairpin he goes, in that beautiful Renault RS01 liveried RS01 with the 01 number side. And they complete the first lap. He's actually got through the first lap this time. The gap is half a second, just under that, so 4.5 tenths in favour of Shimon Frelick. We now watch Shimon Frelick heading out through that middle sector of the left-hand course. The course that finishes on the left-hand side, that is. Oh, and Andre's had an accident. Sorry, I just saw that on the bottom side of the screen. Andre has had an accident. He's torn off the front and rear of the car. So that means that Shimon Frelick will be going through to the quarterfinals, my apologies, to the semi-finals. Goodness me, get it right. So it will be Shimon Frelick who goes through at the result of an accident for for Darius Andre. And of course that wheel issue that he had in the first race. And hopefully that accident wasn't caused by a wheel. And I have to admit, it might well have been. So that means Dennehan, McGorgy and Frelick, 3 of 4 drivers who will be going through to the semi-finals. And the only other place that is to be decided will be contested between Carlos Martin and Alex Lahoe in just a few moments' time. So congratulations to Shimon Frelick, commiserations to Darius Andre. I don't really think any of that was really Darius's fault there, and he certainly fought hard to still be in the competition up to this point, but unfortunately it's all over for him. Let's remind you of the career progression for Alex Lahoe and Carlos Martin. Lahoe so far has beaten Massimiliano Boli and Stein Hangraf. Carlos Martin has beaten Zolt Shooks and Dylan Platt. Lahoe was the fastest driver in the Alpine right at the start of the tournament. Didn't quite hook up the Alpine in the Radical in the same way. But let's see, the Renault RS01 is probably more similar to drive to the Alpine than the Radical, so who knows? Can he get this car under his thumb as he did the Alpine A100? I didn't actually check the race time for Shimon Frelick there. 42.601 apparently, so that is actually the fastest time that we've seen in the Alpine so far in the tournament. Jake, like I said, does have a faster time registered to his name, but he didn't do that in a race session. So Frelick is now at the top of the leaderboard as far as the Alpine are concerned. Not that that will matter too much in the grand scheme of things. Bear with me. Okie dokie. So, after plenty of racing so far with GPWC, we're approaching the latter stages of the tournament now. We have one more quarterfinal to go, and after that, just 4 more matchups. We've got the semi-finals, potentially a third place playoff. I do hope that the drivers in the third place playoff will feel like doing it for the bronze medal. And then, of course, you have the grand final, which will be the most important and the most exciting race of them all, I am sure. Let's look at the YouTube chat here. Frelick defying all predictions, says Kaikera. Shimon says, what do you mean, bruh? Indeed, well, that'll show you for betting against Shimon Frelick. Shimon says you can bet against me now. Interesting. Of course, Shimon will be going up against either Alex Lahu or Carlos Martin, depending on who wins this race. Most of the predictions I've heard have gone the way of Alex Lahu so far, but then again, Carlos Martin was so impressive in the there. Jack says, poor Shimon was literally a championship contender 2 years in a row. Yes, indeed, but you gotta remember, everyone in this tournament is competitive. That's why they're in the tournament in the first place. And there's the GPWC channel showing some love to Shimon Frelick, indeed, we like to do. And I do have to admit, you are an underrated driver. I think you've proven that so far today, beating some very tough opposition. RAC is just wild, that is very true. It's what we love about the tournament, it is unpredictable. Even though the cream does tend to rise to the top, it's not always the cream that you might expect. That sounded very bizarre. I do heavily apologise for that analogy. Carlos Martin will start on the left-hand side of the... Alex Lahu will start on the right-hand side. So Martin in the white car, Lahu in the black car. Here come the lights for the final quarter-final now. And it is go! So who will face Shimon Frelick in the semi... So far, Carlos Martin got the better start. Lahu sparking the car, just as every car sparked through the bridge. Into the hairpin. Big sausage curbs just showing themselves on the side, waiting to pounce if any driver takes a bit too much of them. And across the line, great lap time, great car control for Alex Lahu once again. His first half a lap, but goodness me, 19.8, that's about 3 seconds faster than the A100s were doing yesterday. And that's only in one of the half lap splits. End of the first lap, Lahu is leading by half a second now, so Lahu has brought it back, and he leads by half a second onto this second time of asking. Carlos Martin in a kind of ART GP liveried Renault RS01. RS GP actually, if I remember correctly. Up the hill he goes. Oh goodness me, bouncing the car around. It's incredible how much air the car gets. This is not a car designed to take ramps, but they do it anyway. It was one thing that I took note of in the pre-season promo that was designed by Shimon Frelick. The cars very much can get air. But the first winner of this particular matchup will be Alex Lahu, who wins by 1.5 seconds. So it's first blood to Lahu, and his lap time 42.333 is the fastest that we've seen yet. So Alex Lahu, once again, extremely fast in this competition. Martin's lap time, not particularly slow, but not enough. Especially not enough when you're up against a driver as fast as Alex Lahu is proving to be. So back to the warm-up session, which isn't really a session at all. Alex Laho will go from the left-hand side this time. Carlos Martin will go from the right. And if Alex Laho goes through, if he wins this round, then he will have to face Szymon Frelick in the semi-finals. All of our semi-finals are looking extremely competitive, as of course they would be. That makes a lot of sense. And it looks like it's, of course, if it's Alex Laho who goes through, he's going to be the only driver remaining in the competition, not from the league pathway. So, the only driver who didn't qualify as a result of being top 4 in one of the league championships this year. Laho on the left, Martin on the right. Fakira says maybe I'm underestimating Alex. Yeah, that's another thing. Alex is, well, like I said, he was the fastest in the Alpines yesterday. Martin again getting a slightly better start, just as we saw in the first race. Now he's just got to work on maintaining that advantage, because he does have an advantage. 2.5 tenths of a second is not inconsiderable. Oh, I think he touched the wall though. Seems to have bounced off the barriers a little bit there. Rear wing's still firmly in place, which is the thing that matters. Kicking the car around. And into the hairpins. This car gets off the line so quick. 0 to 60 in probably under 3. Well, it'll be easily under 3 seconds, won't it? Oh, Laho touched the inside wall there. He went onto that last lap about 6 tenths of a second ahead of Martin, but could he have lost 6 tenths of a second in that mistake that we just saw? It's going to be close, surely. Just half a lap to go now. Here's Alex Laho. Oh, that was very sideways. Very sideways on the pitch. Throws the car in like it's 4-wheel drive. It's not 4-wheel drive, but he's driving it as if it is. Almost completely disregarding the track limits over the hairpin. Out to the final corner, and it is Alex Laho, and a spin, and around goes Martin. I think his rear wing was probably missing before he spun there, so unfortunately, Carlos Martin made that mistake going on to the final corner, the double right-hander, sorry. So Alex Laho will now progress to the semi-final. His lap time very good, not quite as quick as his first race, but very good nonetheless. And he was the fastest driver in the Renault RS01s, ahead of Szymon Frelick and Owen Gorgie. So that means that our semi-final, Jake Dennehan versus Owen McGorgie, and Szymon Frelick versus Alex Laho. This is going to be very entertaining stuff. And either of those races could go either way. First of all, it looks as if it's going to be Dennehan versus McGorgie, but I believe we're going to take a short break before we head to the semi-finals, as we're running quite a long way ahead of schedule. Hello everyone, welcome back to the 2023 GPVWC Race of Champions. So far, we've seen all of the round of 32 competitors, all of the round 16 brackets, all of the quarter finals, and now we just have to wait for the semi-finals to take place. It's going to be Jake Dennehan versus Owen McGorgy, and Shimon Frelich versus Alex Lahou. This is going to be wonderful stuff. And of course, this will decide who goes through to the final. Allow me to introduce the next car that we're going to be using. It's known as the Stock Car 2018 X Titan. It's basically a big old NASCAR style thing, a brick of a car that's going to be drifting around all of the corners, even more so than we've seen with any of the other cars that have been out there so far. It should very much suit the style of these drivers, who have been already treating this like a drift course. It's got a V8 engine, just like all good NASCARs have traditionally had. It should be putting out probably about 600, maybe 650 horsepower. And the displacement, well, I can only take a guess, but it's got to be. But anyway, let's wait and see how it goes. I believe the first one is going to be Jake Dennehan versus Owen McGorgy. These two, they really do have history with each other. I mean that in the most competitive of senses. Owen McGorgy, of course, Super Lights champion this year. Dennehan, of course, Super League champion this year, but they previously raced each other in FS1, probably in some other championships as well that I don't know about. And they are both equally competitive and probably equally good, to be honest. They are very similar in terms of their actual flat-out performance and of all of that. They had quite a title fight. I think it was 2020, it was either 21 or 22, where it was Dennehan, McGorgy, and Tom Stevens who were all going at it. FS1 championship crown. That was last year, and honestly, one of the best rivalries I've ever seen in my life. Came together on a couple of occasions as well, and the rivalry continues today. We're still a little way ahead of schedule, which is to be expected, considering we haven't really had that many rounds go to a best of 3 today. But yeah. Shimon Frelich says if you drift the NASCAR, well, when I say drift, I mean kind of like all-wheel drifting it into the turns, just placing it exactly where you like. I'm not expecting to see cars getting fully sideways, but we will see. Carlos Martin says, by the way, Caitlin, I predicted the semi-finals correctly. Ah, congrats, Carlos. I see you predicted yourself to beat. Oh no, sorry, you predicted Alex Lahou to. Ah. I take it you mean quarterfinals, because the semi-finals are about what we're actually going to see now. But anyway, Kaikera says, so what country is the glassware coming to? Well, Dennehan, of course, is representing Ireland. McGorgy representing England. Shimon Frelich is, let me remind myself quickly, so Frelich is Polish. And Alex Lahou, of course, is French, so it could be coming to one of any of those 4 countries. So for this first semi-final, Jake Dennehan will be on the left, Alex McGorgy will be on the right. Hopefully the volume's adjusted right. And away they go. So Dennehan and McGorgy heading up towards the hill. Looks as if Dennehan will be ahead on that start. These two, I really cannot call the difference. Dennehan has had the slight edge in terms of pace competition so far, but McGorgy I think was slightly quicker in Renault, which we've just seen. So it's really not as straightforward as it might have sounded. We're watching Owen McGorgy now, number 27 car. Look at the car kicking and thrashing around. This is another car that I've tested a good deal, and it really is a delight to drive. It handled so much better than you expected to, and it's a lot faster than you expected it to as well. The lap times we've seen on the practice server were faster than the Radical, and it looks as if Dennehan has a advantage. 3/10 of a second is the difference now, with Jake Dennehan just ahead of Owen McGorgy. You can see what I mean there in terms of the drift. It's very much kind of an all-wheel drift kind of thing, where they point where they like and they accelerate, but it's not kind of a side. And it's really a case where you've got to get that balance. Dennehan there, pointing it at the exit. Screw track limits, that's the NASCAR way. And then out towards the final turn of this lap. And where are the drivers? Well, McGorky's a little way back actually. So Dennehan takes first blood. He's 2 seconds ahead of that one. Not a bad final lap for Dennehan whatsoever. Write down the times quickly. 46.425 is the benchmark that Jake Dennehan just laid down there. And that will give him first blood heading into the second race between these two. So 46.425 is Dennehan. McGorgy set a 47.262 if the server is telling me correctly. And so it is definitely Dennehan who has the advantage, just as he has done for most of the competition so far. But what can Owen McGorgy do? Losses like that are sure to fire him up. Sure about that. Of course, he did have a loss to David Wasserman in the last round. Wasserman very nearly took him out of the competition altogether. But McGorgy fought back and got through to the quarterfinals before beating Loic Mounier 2-0. Here they are again. McGorgy this time will be on the left, Dennehan on the right. Dennehan doing a bit of a practice start. That isn't the actual start, so don't you worry, McGorgy has not been there. You just have to wait for the lights to illuminate. So will Owen McGorgy be able to bring it back? He's going to have to do something special. He might have made a mistake in that last race. And away they go. McGorgy going under Dennehan's track right now. Over the curbs. The car does seem a lot more planted than I expect. I say it's McGorgy, absolutely smoots the rear tyre, so maybe I'll eat my words on that one. Getting a bit close to the exit wall. Oh, and touches the exit wall there, but that's okay, that line up. Round across the bridge, round the hairpins. Right-hander coming up, get the exit right, there we go. Lines himself up nicely. Oh, bounces off the barriers again. I don't think he really cares at this point, he just wants to be as fast as he possibly can. Who cares if the car ends up with a few scuffs on it? The gap is 0.6 of a second. I think Dennehan's just got to bring it home now. Let's watch him. If he keeps it clean, he should be in the final. Remember, this is for the grand final of the competition. Jake Dennehan, who won it a year ago, is defending his crown in the most emphatic way possible. He's got half a lap to go after this one. Across the line. The gap may say 2 seconds there, but don't trust it, because that's only the half lap split. You've got to wait until the very end of the circuit before you start to call the winner. The car bouncing a bit, that's what they call a wheel hop, this car. Around the final corner now, and Dennehan's going to have it, and there he goes. Jake Dennehan is the first driver confirmed in the final for this tournament. He wins that race by 1.6 seconds. Not quite as fast as his first race, but that doesn't matter because it's faster than McGorgy's, and so that puts him through. So now, to determine who is going to be with him, and actually before I move on, let's give a virtual round of applause to Owen McGorgy for such a valiant performance all day. You're always unlucky when you have to go on Jake Dennehan, but Owen has given it his best shot, he's given it his all, but he is out of the competition now. As you see, the car's back in the pits. So, to decide who will be joining him, it will be Shimon Frelick versus Alex. So, Shimon, of course, the 10th seeded driver, although 3rd seeded in the competition. He to reach this point has so far had to face, let me get up his results, Magnus Ockenhaug, Heigo Poom, Darius Andre. Yeah, so Ockenhaug, Poom and Andre. Whereas Lahu has faced Raboli, Handgraf and Martin. All serious competitors. And they've conquered them all. They've both beaten drivers with a higher seed than them. Lahu's done so on multiple occasions. And this race could well decide the tournament now, because who's to say that a driver who would be quick in the cars used in the final is also going to be quick in this car here. They're both in the server actually, so now we just have to wait for the times to change. So guys, the predictions are getting tougher, aren't they? Kaikira says, I predicted only one side of the semis correctly. Jake Dennehan enters the finals once more. Yes, indeed. Jake is through. We all expected him to be so. Now, Menno Klont messaged me this morning and said he expects Dennehan Lahu final. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's looking very likely indeed. But how well does Shimon Frelick know the Titan X stock car? Of course, Dennehan Frelick final would be something to marvel at as well. Again, those two serious contenders for each other. All of these drivers know each other quite well. I should point out, these are all youngsters too. We've had, I mean, that there have been drivers in this tournament who are more experienced and a little bit older, but all of these guys are under, I think they're all under 20 if I remember. Frelick is probably about 20 years old now, so little below. Yeah, so all of these drivers youngsters, but driving like veterans. And this time it's going to be Shimon Frelick on the left-hand side of the grid, Alex Lahu on the right. And the lights go out, and once again, it's a good start for Frelick. He's been characteristic with those good starts all the way throughout this tournament so far. He leads into the first corner. Over the curbs he goes. Now, he told me you couldn't drift in this car or you were dead, but I think he's just proven himself wrong with that corner. The car does look planted though. Potentially the most planted of all the cars we've seen. Still sparking though. Still sparking, just as every car has done. Into the hairpin. Rubbing the wall, look at that. Almost like a cat marking its scent. The car looking like a Black Panther as it goes into the tunnel. And towards the end of the first lap. Oh, look how close they are. Frelick just leads, 0.4 of a second. Frelick leads. Lahu on the comeback, look at him. He's charging. Decent line through the corner. I think he tagged the inside wall as well. Oh, 2 wheels up in the air over the curb. Get it hooked up, Alex. There we go. Through the tunnel. Out to the wall. Half a lap to go. Alex's second sector. Not as fast as Lahu's was a lap ago. Through the bend. I think it might just be Frelick, but this is going to be a really close one. They're heading towards the final turn now. Here comes Shimon Frelick, and he is going to get it. Look at that. The gap, 0.7 of a second, 0.772. Frelick's lap was a 46.654, which puts him second on the times, and Lahu's time is third. So amazing stuff there from both drivers. And Frelick has the advantage, but will Lahu be able to draw back? Remember, Lahu was the fastest in the Alpine A100s. A110, sorry. That's weird, sorry, I've only just noticed. This is completely unrelated, but the Alpine on the schedule is listed as the 100, and yet on RaceView is listed as the A110, so I think there may have been a misspelling, misclick. I think it is the A110. That doesn't matter, you don't care about that right now, but Shimon Frelick is 1 up ahead of Alex Lahu. just going to mark down Lahoo's lap time as well. His best was a 46.953. And they're getting set to go away again for the start, the start of this second race. And this could decide the final, remember? If Frelick wins this, then it will be a Denahan-Frelick final. And the lights go out. Oh, it's a better start for Frelick again. They're lagging off the line. Lagging in terms of his throttle input, not in terms of server lag. Oh, he's a little twitchy there from the... He's got to get it together now. This is desperate stuff. Through the hairpin. Either of these drivers know that if they get through to the final, they stand a very good chance of winning. He touches the wall. This hasn't been the best lap for Lahoo. This hasn't been the best lap at all. Oh no! Oh, he's got it wrong! Lahoo seemed to twitch under brakes, and he's hit the wall. Shimon Frelick will be going through to the final. All he's got to do now is finish this race. He doesn't really need to do that, but he will anyway. And Lahoo has got it wrong. Some people in the chat saying Frelick may have jumped the start, but no, he didn't. It's the same thing as in the Alpines yesterday. He just gets insane starts. But yeah, unfortunately, Alex Lahoo has now crashed out of the race. Just taking a look at the replay. It was a really weird one. He didn't appear to even be in the braking zone yet. He seemed to just kind of stop and pull to the left. You think he was lagging a bit? Yeah, I think so too, because he did look like he was... Yeah, he did look like he was lagging off the start as well. That's tragic stuff there, but Shimon Frelick has earned his place in the final. He has really, really come through. And as Kaikera said earlier, he underestimated Shimon Frelick, because look at that, he's gone all the way to the final. The 10th seeded driver will face the top seeded driver at the very end. And what a final we have lined up for us now. 46.290 was the time in... That is the fastest time we saw in the stock car. So, after all of that, it comes down to this. We might get a third place playoff first, actually. I will hold my horses on declaring this the final that we're about to see. Well, there you go. We've already got the final being written onto our screen there. Denahan versus Frelick. Please center that if you can. Oh, here we go. Look at it. It's creeping its way over to the left. Is it going to get into the box? It's going to fit. Yeah, there we go. It's like watching the DVD logo. Oh, it's going too far. No, no, no. Stop. Come back. Come back. Oh, no. Denahan versus Frelick's running away. Oh, it's coming back again. Sorry, this is completely childish. I'm just saying, it is like watching the DVD. That's perfect. So, now we have to ask, are we going to get a third place playoff to decide who is going to be the bronze medalist out of Owen McGorgy and Alex Lahoo? I would love to see that fight. You guys are... I don't know if any of you guys are really in the mood for it right now. Come on, guys, you gotta do this. And they are on the server. Great, we are gonna get a third place playoff. Now, I'm not entirely sure of the rules of this. I know that in the final best of 5, to test out a bunch of different cars, potentially all of the cars. These guys seem to have loaded in the Alpine GT4s, so that would indicate that we're probably going to do a best of 5 in this case as well, unless I'm very much mistaken. So it's going to be Lahoo versus McGorgy. Now remember, Lahoo was fastest of anyone in the Alpine, so he should have the advantage in this first race, but who knows what way it could go. And hopefully he's not lagging too much, because that seemed to be what did him in that last race. Jope says, whoever gets pushed off the box loses. That would be great. A tug of war between Denahan and Frelick for that top spot. And we've got Magorki versus Lahu in the box now as well. So this will be the third place playoff. Jack says, I'm contractually obliged to say Owen will beat Alex and Shimon will beat Jake. Right, well, we'll hold you to that. I am of course saying Jack because it's much easier than to smite this, but I had to get that in at least once. I'm glad you're all enjoying the text box battles as much as I am. Great stuff. Okie dokie, so any second now we should be ready to get going for the third place playoff. I would appreciate if someone could text me what the rules are. Whether we are going to be doing all of the different cars and a best of 5, or whether we're going to be doing maybe a best of 3 in the Alpine. Because I know what the rules are for the final, but does the third place match count in the same way? I guess we'll just treat it as we see it. But anyway, we know that the first race is going to be in the Alpines. Alex Lahu will be in the number 36, which from memory is a red car. Can't remember which one. I think the one... So Magorki's in the 110, which I think is a blue car, so that's good. They've both gone for different colours. Both doing a little bit of practice on the warm-up server. I was told actually, so Menno told me before the start here that before every round of the best of 5s, we are going to give the drivers a little bit of time to test out the cars once again on the server, just get them acquainted with that vehicle, which makes a lot of sense. Menno says best of 3 now. Okay, thanks Menno. Is it all in the Alpine, or I'm going to text him back. All in the Alpine? Or do we change car? Apologies, my typing noise is in the background there, but I'm trying to get on top of what the rules are actually going to be here. What a tournament it's been so far, eh? Ever since Tom Stevens got knocked out in the round of 16, I knew it was a crazy one. Menno's got back to me. 1 car per race now. So... does that include the final? One car per race, so I think that means they change cars. Okay, we'll figure that out when we go. So for this race, it's Magorki on the left, who on the right. Ignore the fact Magorki has jumped the start. That's fine because we're going back to it. Shimon Frelick says time to practice the academy car. Yeah, I think that's going to be the title decider if it comes down to that. And go, go, go! So Lahu is in the red car, Magorki is in the blue car. Lahu over the crest of the hill. It's good to see our old friend, the Alpine A110, back. The GT4 Cup car that we saw in action yesterday. Both of these drivers were insanely quick and... ooh, touching the wall there with Alex. He still seems to be lagging a little bit. I do hope this doesn't get the better of him. He deserves at least a little bit of silverware from this. Then again, so does Owen, of course. Through the hairpin, still kicking out the tail, but keeping it nicely controlled. Menno says the final will be best of 5. The first race will be in the Alpine, the second will be in the Radical. The third will be in the Renault. If it comes to a 4th, that will be in the stock car, and if it comes to a 5th, GPVWC Academy car. So, very good stuff. The Academy car, of course, is what some drivers qualify, but there are probably drivers who haven't driven the Academy car on this track yet. Drifting it wide, and at the end of the first lap, it was Alex Lahu who had the advantage by about a second. They've got half a lap to go now. Magorki over the bridge, sliding it wide. Oh, little twitch, touches the inside wall. Got it now. Lahu is insane in the Alpine. I was absolutely shocked by his performance yesterday. Oh, big hit into the wall from Magorgi. And Alex Lahu wins the first race out of, I think, 3. And then celebrates by bouncing off the wall. So Lahu is 1 up. Now I think they're going to change cars for the second. It'll be the Radical SR3 RSX I'll go back to. That would be the case if this was the final, but we will see. Shimon Frelick says, I predicted Jake win 3-0. Come on, Shimon, back yourself. Jack says, I never suggested I believe this prediction. My actual prediction in January. Well, I mean, it still could happen, you know? So, we're getting ready to go again. The drivers have left the server and they will come back in the Radicals. Yes, so it is going as we expected. So, I'm just going to confirm very quickly because I'm still a little confused. Go on, Ben. Yep, so they get a little bit of warm up. Here we go. Okay, so I believe if Alex wins this next race, he gets the bronze medal. Although these drivers appear to be having a little bit of fun in the pit garage right now. They will get a little bit of warm up before they start, just acclimatise themselves with the cars. Out they go onto the circuit. See the sparks flying. This is the Radical SR3 RSX, of course. A car that some of the drivers told me they didn't really enjoy, but made for some wonderful racing earlier on. Obviously both drivers won their heats in this car because the drivers still in the competition did. And Meadows confirmed to me that if Alex wins this next race and he gets bronze, best of 3, whereas the final will be a best of 5. Thank you very much for the what's the word? Confirmation, that's what I was looking for. I was thinking of compensation, I don't know why, but anyway. I think we may be entitled to some competition here. So guys, get your predictions in. Will Aaron Magorki be able to bring it back in the Radical? Or will Alex Lahu have enough for him? I think Cohen's going to be a bit disappointed that that we're not going straight for the stock cars, because he was very good in the stock car, potentially the best. So if it was down to him, I think we've done all of these rounds in the stock car.
Attention grid, will all non-essential personnel leave the grid now?
Here we are on the grid. Lahu will go from the left, Magorki will go from the right. Back into their boxes they go. The Race of Champions really does provide some possibilities for surprises and shocks. Remember in the real life Race of Champions when Enzo Benito on Team Sim Racing beat Lucas de Grassi from Formula E and Formula 1 fame. And remember, of course, how many times David Coulthard's won it even after retiring from motorsports. Here we go again. Alex Lahu in the blue car, but Magorki gets a slightly better start in the car with the lighter front. We're going to watch Magorki on this first time around. Keeps it slightly wider through the first corner. That's the line that they seem to be taking in this car. Big drift through those hairpins. Lovely car control. It's like a big silly go-kart with a rear wing stuck to it. Like a superkart almost. And both on different sides of the car too. Alex right-hand drive, Magorki left-hand drive. however much of a difference you think that makes. And we're going to see the lap times as they come to the end of this particular time around. I'm amazed actually that the Radical SR3 RSX seems to be the slowest car in terms of lap times. About 2 seconds slower than the stock car. Oh, it's close! Close as they cross the line. And LaHoux leads by less than 1/10 of a second. This could go either way. McGorgy could absolutely bring this back and send it to the third round of Renault RS01. We're watching Alex LaHoux. Seems to be perfect so far. There's the second apex. A little bit of a lag, but it looked to be okay. Through the corner. I think he had a little hesitation part that we didn't see McGorgy have. God, I really think this is going to be a close one. Similar lines through those hairpins there. LaHoux not taking quite as much curb. Who's it going to be? I've got no idea with this one. Out of the final corner they come. And it's LaHoux, and McGorgy spins. Well, he finished in style. He crossed the line in reverse. Pounces off the barriers, but Alex LaHoux gets the bronze medal here at the GPWC Race of Champions, and well deserved as well. He was unlucky not to get through to the final and deserves that bronze medal. Very well done to Alex LaHoux, one of the standout performers of the championship. And congratulations as well to Owen McGorgy for making it so far. Commiserations for not getting silverware to show for it, but very good stuff. Jack Mayer points out, funny that the British driver was in a left side car and the French was in a right side car. Right. Kaikira says, well, that changes my predictions to 11 out of 15. Not bad, not bad at all. In such an unpredictable sport, not bad at all. But guys, that does mean that now we've got to look forward to the final. I know we're a little bit early according to that time, but it's okay. I think they're both ready. So we're going to get Jake Dennehan and Shimon Frelich into the server for the final of the 2023 Race of Champions. Sorry, Vince, what's that? Oh, that's okay, don't worry about it. So Jake Dennehan, let's remind ourselves how they got to this point. Beat Noah Tuamela in the round of 32, despite getting a bad start in the first race and one down. Ever since then, he's been absolutely on it. He beat Luke Maguire in the round of 16, his Super League competitor. He beat Alessandro Maggio in the quarterfinals due to Maggio's crashes. He beat Owen McGorgy in the semi-finals, who we just saw in that best of 3 round, third place round there. Meanwhile, Shimon Frelich came from a battle with Magnus Ockenhaug, won that. He's beaten Heigo Poom, who was a higher seeded driver. He beat Darius Andre, who of course knocked out his main competitor in Super League this year, Tom Stevens. He beat Alex LaHoux in that last round, and so he progresses to the grand final against Jake Dennehan. This is going to be quite something. We've got 5 different cars that could be used here. They're going to start off in the Alpine A110 GT4 Cup. They're doing a little bit of practice out on the server now, just to get themselves reacquainted with the car before they go out again. After this, they will go out in the Radical SR3 RSX, and then after that, the Renault RS01. And of course, if Jake Dennehan has won all 3 of those races, he will then be crowned as the winner. If not, they will go to a 4th round. They will race the Touring Car, the Titan 2018 X stock car. And if Jake by that point has won 3 races, then he will be crowned champion then. And if Shimon Frelich wins 3 races, then he will be crowned champion then. And if not, they will go to one final round in the GPWC Academy car for ultimate glory. So, what we hope is going to happen is we hope that Dennehan will win 2 races, Frelich will win 2 races, because that will bring them down to a finale, the most exciting race of the evening. If not, that's absolutely okay, because whoever wins will absolutely deserve it. I know I kind of implied there that Jake Dennehan was going to win, so I mentioned that if Dennehan wins the first 3 races, then he'll be crowned champion on the spot. But I moved on from that point before I could say that if Frelick wins the first 2 races, then the same thing would happen on his side as well. I didn't mean to imply that we're waiting for Dennehan to win, but anyway. So who is it going to be, guys? Jake Dennehan, the top-seeded driver, the favourite coming into the championship, or the feisty underdog, second in the FS1 championship this year, Shimon Frelick, one of the fastest drivers in GPVWC. There you see them out on the track, gearing up for the grand final. What's Menno messaging me for? See this. I think we start in just for the final, and he sent that to me almost 2 minutes ago. Right. We're gearing up then. So any second now we should see the server change. If they do make a mistake, there is time to come back from it with an extra race or 2 to be contested. 3 races at least will have to be tested. But as I said, wouldn't it be amazing to see it come down to the final? Frelick will go from the left, Dennehan will go from the right. Not that that matters much. I'd love to see the statistics actually on how many wins each driver's had from each side of the grid. But the fact so many drivers have gone 2-0 shows me that it really doesn't matter much. It's mainly down to the driver's skill. So here they are on the grid. Well, Frelick's on the grid anyway. Dennehan appears to have gone a bit. Frelick will be on the left in the red car. Dennehan on the right in the blue car. Here we go, guys. Hold on to your seats. It's the grand final. And it's go! Oh, and a dead even start. Look at that. I can't even tell you who was a nose ahead there. According to the timing screen, it was Frelick. Here's Frelick now. We're watching his car as he controls it beautifully through the sweeps. Dennehan was slightly faster in the Alpine A110 round that we did yesterday. But who's to say that Frelick hasn't been put loads of practice? Oh, a little twitch. A little bit twitchy. Possibly touched the wall a bit. Can't see what Dennehan's up to just yet. Watch him on the second time around. Through the tunnel they go. Rocketing past the camera and out towards the finish line. And Dennehan is ahead by 0.367, so just under 0.4 of a second gap. That's not insurmountable. Here is Jake Dennehan, trying to do all that he can. He needs to make sure he doesn't make a mistake. Car was rotating quite eagerly over the curbs there, but I think he was ready for it. Out of that turn, half a lap to go. Dennehan, so smooth here. This is brilliant driving, as we've seen from him all competition long. He only seems to have made one mistake that he had in the Renault RS01, which didn't end up mattering in the grand scheme of things. And across the line he comes, and he does go 1 up. Dennehan, 0.7 of a second ahead of Shimon Frelick. Draws first blood. It's 1.1 win to 0 for Jake Dennehan. But now they get to do it all over again in the Radical SR3 RSX. Remember, this one is a best of 5, so there's still plenty of time for Shimon to come back. Now Shimon will be hoping very much that they can keep it going until they get to the stock cars. He was the fastest driver in the stock cars. So if he can win just one of these first 3 rounds, he should be able to get it to go to the final. To the very last round with the Academy car. But he does need to win with either the Radical or the Renault. So, who's it going to be in the Radical? This is the car where Jake Dennehan was fastest of anyone. This is going to be a really tough task if if Shimon Frelick is going to fight with him here I get a little bit of a warm-up session once again before going back at it. Jake Dennehan comes in with the momentum, with the confidence. There he is in that red, black and green car. That's a lovely livery there. All of the liveries on the Radicals that we've seen have looked fast, despite the fact the Radical has been theoretically the slowest car. It's funny, isn't it? I'd have thought the Radical would corner so much faster than the stock car. I guess the stock car with all of its mountains of power has just been better through the short point and squirt straights. I guess that does make sense with the acceleration and all that. Radicals tend to do better when it comes to the higher speed. Frelick not even on the server just yet, so gonna have to make some pretty in here. We just gotta wait for Shimon to turn up. Alex says, oh, so I am in fact driving against Jake in the finals. I heard my name, yeah. Congrats on your bronze medal though, very good stuff. I'm not sure, I don't think there is a physical bronze medal, but you can claim it in spirit. Jake Dennehan out on track. Shimon Frelick is now in the server. And will surely head out onto the track as quickly as he can, just so that Dennehan doesn't get all of this free practice in before they start. Come on, Shimon, get out there. And he's now out on track as well, according to the screen. Real shame that Ed Hunter isn't here to see this, because this is a very tense final, and I think that he would be very much enjoying this now. I'm sure that he'll watch this back later at some point and probably hear me say this, so hiya. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't want to miss this one. Jake still hanging the tail out, just as he has done in every single car over the course of the day. Brakes hard, goes back to the pits. We're ready for the start, I think. Oh, no, he's going back out on track again. Very good. Goes to his start box. He's doing a practice start by the look of things. That makes a lot of sense. Doing a little practice race while he can. Don't mind the fact that Shimon's lap is a little down there. He was starting that lap from the pits, I think, which is always going to put you down on time. Jake's so smooth. This is crazy stuff. I think he's gonna... I mean, if he can do what he's doing now in the race, I think he's going to go 2 up for sure. Not that Shimon Frelick isn't also a wonderful driver, but Jake in the Radical is a force to be reckoned with. 4 tenths up on Frelick in the time so far, and there is the change of session. We go to the race. I think this one's going to be down to... whether Jake can keep it under control. McCorky says if the Radical is used next year. Not a fan then, Owen? I definitely heard that some drivers weren't a fan, but I guess that makes sense. It is a weird car. You think you should be able to drive it like a prototype, because it looks like one and it kind of handles like one in a way, but it's got so much more mechanical grip than you would expect. But even so, you've got to get the heat into the tyres. Yeah, it's a weird car. And here we go again. So Jake Dennehan will go from the left, Shimon Frelick will go from the right. Funnily enough, that's not the side that Jake did the practice start from, but whatever the case, he will go from the left and Frelick will go from the right. Here come the lights. And away we go. Now for the second part of the final, Frelick with another one with characteristically brilliant starts. He has a right-hand drive car, Denahan has a left-hand drive car. Both look quite different, luckily. Denahan slightly wider through the hairpins than he has been. Bless you, Vincent. My cameraman just sneezing his head off in my ears. Across the line for another half a lap, second quarter of the race. Denahan very much hoping to go 2-0 up here. And if he can replicate the form that he showed earlier on today in the round of 32, in the round of 6, then he absolutely will. Through the tunnel now. We're about to see the first lap times. It's still close though, still close. The gap, 0.348, so Frelick only 0.3 of a second. He can still do this, you know. Not sure that was quite the line he was going for on the entrance to the corner. Come on, Shimon, we want this to go down to the final. Of course, it will still go down to another round because it's a best of 3. But Frelick is still pushing. Here we go, best of 5, sorry. Past the sausage curbs he goes. That's a lot more like it. The car looking very smooth through that sector. Oh, look at that. One more corner to go. It's between McGorky and Denahan. Sorry, Frelick and Denahan once again. But Denahan, once again, takes the victory. 0.8 of a second up. So, it's match point Jake Denahan now. They will come back with the Renault RS01. This is a car that Denahan has made mistakes with, so it is absolutely not guaranteed that Jake Denahan is going to win this next race. But he's got to do it. He's got to do it. And Shimon Frelick even more so. If Shimon Frelick loses this next race, then it all goes the way of Jake Denahan, and he is champion second year running. Kakira and Just Down are both seeing bless you, Vince. Very good. Sorry, Vince, what was that? And his prediction was right, Shimon's prediction. Oh yes, true. Yeah, so if Denahan goes 3-0 up, then Shimon's prediction comes true. But of course, he won't want that to actually come true. Menno just writing to me to confirm that if Jake wins this next one, then he wins the event for the second year running. And it would be a clean sweep of GP for Jake Denahan, winning both the Super League Championship a round early and potentially the Race of Champions, 2 races. Can he do it? He's still got tough competition here. Even if he wipes Shimon Frelick clean 3-0, that will not reflect badly on Shimon Frelick whatsoever. That much is clear. So let's just hope for a clean race here, and may the best man win. Once again, we're going to get a little bit of warm-up just before the start. Looks like Shimon Frelick is the first driver to head out onto the track this time. The green light shows, and out he goes. They both go to different sides of the track, as they will be on in the race. There is Frelick in the Renault RS01. Beautiful car and extremely fast. It really does baffle me that this car is so much faster than, for example, the Alpine. About 4 seconds faster, despite this track being so short. It's faster than the GPVWC Academy car, believe it or not. They can really fling the thing around. This is a dream of a vehicle, I think, for any driver to race. Ah, look at that, it's beautiful stuff to see them side by side. Unfortunately, they've both gone for the same livery, so we won't be able to tell them apart visually. We'll only be able to tell them apart by what side of the track they're on. And also, if you look at the top left of your screen where it says Denahan Frelick, there's a little orange bar next to the car. So if you're watching Frelick, then the bar will be orange like that. So right now we can tell that that is Shimon Frelick, and the other driver, Jake Denahan. Denahan quicker on the practice server so far, if that means anything. So, do we continue in the competition? Will we see the Titan X stock car again? Will we see the GPWC Academy car? Or will Jake Denahan wrap up the championship with 2 races still to go? It could all come down to this, and might well. Jake Denahan, we know, is extremely fast in everything put in. So adaptable. It is almost superhuman stuff that he can jump in so many cars and be so fast. The organisers have done a great job of putting together a bunch of cars that are so different and yet so competitive. And away they go once again. It's another characteristic start for Shimon Frelick, but Denahan was right with him. Through the sweepers they go. Shimon needs to be so good here, so perfect. Remember, this is the car that has seen the most accidents over the course of the competition. It's the hardest car to control simply because of the speed that it goes. So they've got to keep it clean. Into the second quarter of the race. Frelick's lap, looking good so far, looking clean. That was good into the hairpin there. Out into the tunnel. It's a very good lap for Frelick. Get the braking right. Don't touch the wall. He's ahead. Shimon Frelick's ahead, going on to the lap. Shimon Frelick ahead by 0.277, so just under 0.3 of a second. He could well keep this going to the Titan round. We're now watching Jake Denahan. For the first time since the very first round of the competition, he is down, having to make up time. Look at him hanging it out though. This is amazing stuff. He's got half a lap to go before he might be crowned champion of the 2023 GPWC Race of Champions. What a beautiful shot there. This is one of the most spectacular championships, and Frelick's crashed! And Jake Denahan wins the 2023 GPVWC Race of Champions in dramatic circumstances. A 3-0 victory as Shimon Frelick finds himself in the barriers. He will be gutted, but Jake Denahan has absolutely deserved this victory. A very fast race, only 43.1 seconds on that second lap. And what a deserving drive for the world champion in Super League and the GPWC Race of Champions winner, Jake Denahan. Amazing stuff. So guys, give a round of applause, a virtual round of applause to Jake Denahan. And of course, commiserations, but also a round of applause to our second place finisher, our silver medalist, Shimon Frelick. He should be very proud of his efforts. Both of these drivers, very young, but very experienced, very fast. Both of these drivers should be so happy with how this has gone. And I'm so excited with this event. I'm really hoping that we do this again next year because, in my opinion, this should be a mainstay of the calendar. I think we should see this every single year. I almost hope that I can compete in it next year. So if I'm not commentating it, then you bet I'll be attempting to qualify. And I'm looking forward to seeing what cars we've got next year as well. So already looking forward to that. I'm wondering actually if we'll... Oh, there we go. P1 Denahan. There's the confirmation. Denahan. Oh, and the box is moving again. Can we get it centered? Jake Denahan is the champion. That is confirmed. Kakira saying, well done to Jake. Mateus Pissan saying he's ahead. Oh, he crashed. Yep, that'll be Shimon Frelick. Alex the Who says Jake 2 times in a row. Indeed, Jake Denahan, absolutely undisputed champion at this point. And goes into 2024 with his head held high. I wonder if we're going to get any drivers in for the interviews. We haven't advertised that we're doing this, but if someone pops in, then we might. Denahan doesn't tend to pop in for interviews or anything like that. Unfortunately, we didn't even get to speak to him after the World Championship this year. But who knows? We might be able to snag a quick interview with Shimon or Alex or Owen maybe. But what an event this has been. I have to say a big thank you to Menno Klont for putting this on as the race director, to anyone in GPWC who was a part of this. Shimon Frelich, of course, designed the promotional video that you saw before this. Vincent Gutt, of course, designed the graphic that you're seeing on your screen right now. And I very much hope that I can see a good deal of you at GPWC Day. Remember, 9th and 10th of December. I'll be there on the 9th for sure when we go karting just near Milton Keynes. So if any of you guys are coming along and doing that, I will be keen to race against you. I think I stand a good chance this year, depending on how Tom Stevens does. So our rivalry is going to be reignited for sure, and I hope to see plenty of you guys there. Oh, we're going to speak to Shimon. Let's get Shimon in. Quick, unexpected interview. Shimon, congratulations! You are the silver medalist. What a day of racing!
That was an interesting way to the final.
That's true. Well, you said that Denham was going to win. Did, but I'm sure you can still be proud of your efforts. As I said, what a day of racing this has been.
Yep. I guess I'm muted.
Oh, you muted. Oh, there we go.
Okay. So. Yeah, I'm surprised. I am. I gave it all against Jake. It was. The problem was in the final that my worst cars were at the beginning. So
yeah, that's the thing. You seemed so competitive in the stock. Did you know you were the fastest driver in the stock?
Yeah, I know. I knew I was the quickest, but yeah, the first two rounds or the first two races in the final, they were just giving my all and try to be as close to Jake. Maybe capitalize on his mistake or crash, but he's too good. It didn't happen. Then in the third race, I had the chance. I was ahead, and I was giving it my all. And then on the jump, the car went sideways, which I did not expect after doing a lot of laps in the car. So I was thrown off, and then into the technical section, I just pushed too much with the drift, and yeah, went around.
Well, you gave it your all, and you've beaten some very tough cookies to get here. You should be very proud of yourself. I want to quickly say as well, I really enjoyed the promotional video. How long did that take you to make?
So that was around 6-7 hours, just counting the work.
And you got a bit of free practice in, just driving the cars to get the
Well,
footage.
The footage was like 30 minutes of the 7 hours.
Fair enough, fair enough. Well, congratulations, Shimon, and thank you very much for an awesome day of racing.
Thank you.
Okie dokie, and we can also speak to Alex. Let's bring in our bronze. Alex Lahoo, hello, how are you?
Hello. I just
Hello,
realized
Alex.
that Shimon had the interview, so I just went here to grab it as well.
Fair enough. Well, we're doing that. We're not finished yet. So Alex, you were the only driver still in the competition who didn't come through the league pathway, came to the semi-finals, and you've come through to be bronze medalist. How does that feel?
Oh, quite good actually, even though I kind of been the NASCAR. That was 2 poor starts in a row. I lost about 5/10 to Shimon, I think, not less or more. Need to check again, I don't know. Otherwise, the Alpine went really well. The Radical, I was the most scared about, but I still won. The Renault, that was one of my strongest cars. And for the NASCAR, that was also my strongest car actually, even more than the Renault. But I just had really, really poor starts. I just couldn't get the car running twice in a row, and that was deadly enough for race 1. It was the difference between a win and a loss. So yeah, if the Renault and the stock car was swapped, I could have maybe done something else. But yeah, it's really nice.
Small mistakes can make such a difference, but you ended up beating Oren Mugorgi, of course, our super lights champion. That's gotta leave you with a good taste, right?
Yeah, yeah. Beating Owen for P3, I'm taking that all day. But yeah, congrats to Shimon anyways for giving a fight to Jake, even though it wasn't easy. I I just know that Jake told us that if Shimon won in the runnel, it would have been over for him because Shimon would have gotten uh, the win with the stock car, and since Jake didn't practice with the academy car, it would have been easy for Shimon.
And Alex, how do you
So
have
it was
so
a
many
clutch from him.
fans? Everyone's calling you the GOAT in the chat.
Wait, what? Hang
Everyone
on,
called you the
excuse
GOAT
me.
earlier on. I'm just saying you've got a
No
lot of
clue.
fans, my
Maybe
friend.
they just like France.
Maybe so.
Maybe they want to be French.
Maybe so. Anyway, congratulations, Alex, and hopefully we'll see you plenty more next year. Know what your plans are, just quickly?
Plans for next year.
Yeah.
Super light.
Wonderful. Okay, congratulations and
Thank you very much, Caitlin, and congrats to Jake and GG's to Shimon for putting him a fight. See you soon.
see you soon. Okie dokie, so that was our bronze medalist, Alex. What a fantastic day of racing. It's been amazingly enjoyable, and I'm really hoping that we get to do this all again next year. I've already thanked pretty much everyone involved, but I'd also like to, on the broadcast side of things, thank Ed Hunter for keeping me yesterday, and also to Vincent Gutt for both days and providing cameras and the broadcast that you're actually watching. And thank you to all of you as well for following along. It's been a long competition, but it's been worth it, and I hope I'll see you then.